Sure.
What's going on? I don't know who my co-hosts are this week. What's up, Wes? What's up, Myles? What's going on? How you guys doing?
But we need a cool name like last week we had West J. What would it be this week, Myles?
It's two wise. It's just it's two wise West Day. That's it.
Two wise West Day.
It can't be Wiles. Wiles.
Two wise West Day.
The guys said Wiles. Crazy wild. Okay, I'm fucking done. All right, guys. This is taking, even though it's like not a dramatically new format with three co-hosts. It's I'm finding out very quickly that it takes a little while longer to format everything, and so we keep running a little bit later than anticipated. So sorry, guys, but at this point you probably expect it. But I don't want to keep anybody waiting. So you guys ready to start the show?
Let's do it.
Fine.
Okay.
Blue boxes.
Nothing, oh my god, nothing's ever gonna go right. Look how terrible this is. It's terrible. This is PSVR Gamescast Live, where I fix things on the fly, where we film live every single Wednesday. That's it, just Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's what we're doing now. Rotating cast of hosts. You got your fill of AJ last week, and if you didn't get your fill of AJ last week, then, well, he does a show every Thursday without me, so fuck him. Yeah. What's going on? My name is Brian Paul from the show right here, PSVR Without Parole, and with me is Myles Dyer from YouTube.com/Myles and Wes Dillon from our sister channel. I love saying it because I think it's hilarious. Virtual Strangers, gentlemen. It's been a week since I've seen you, Wes, but 2 weeks I think since I've seen you, Myles.
3 or 4.
17 weeks since I've seen you, Myles. What have you been up to? As if we all don't know.
Just getting on with Let's Plays. It's been going good though. I have missed doing the show though. It feels really weird not doing it for a while. And with this new format, today has actually been quite hectic in particular because on Wednesdays I do my Myles Dyer live show anyway, which is fine. But before that, I did the Madison VR Let's Play because obviously embargo's lifted. I'm still feeling the effects of that game now, like hours later. I still feel it in my bones and my muscles. I've still got a headache from it, which could mean I'm getting possessed, who knows? And then also today was my first day. I got a new job, Brian.
Oh, right. I completely forgot that you got a new job. Congratulations, first and foremost. Would you like to tell the cats what you're doing now?
Nah.
Okay.
Just that. Got a new job. That's it. No, I owe massive thanks to Wes because he said on a previous Gamescast, I said Myles should send me his resume, and so I did, and had some good conversations. And yeah, I'm joining Impact Reality, heading up as a social media strategist, helping lift VR devs' online game with community building and putting themselves out there, and get to work with a great network of not just VR experts but content creators, and it's pretty surreal. And so yeah, it's gonna be a full-time role, and super excited. So massive thanks to Wes, and also thanks to just the community as a whole, because this community is what's brought me into the VR space as much as it has, and it feels like an exciting new chapter after what was, as many people know, was a pretty terrible start to the year for me. So yeah, thank you.
Well, allow me to once again welcome you aboard. I couldn't be happier, not only to work with you, but just to have somebody, because I don't have time to play anything anymore because I'm always so damn busy at work. So if you can help kind of alleviate some of that so that I could spend more time in VR, then I'm all for it. But no, seriously, it was when we were in Boston, when it became glaringly obvious to me that we had to get you on our team. The way that you were so motivated and active and just chasing down leads and meeting with everyone. This is how our team is. This is how most people on our team are when we're out at some trade show, right? Everyone's always working, even when they don't have to be. So it seemed that it was obvious to me at that point that you were a great fit. And then when I came back and they said we need to find a guy to help us with social media, my wheels start turning. And then I look at your resume and like I had no idea what your work history was beyond the job that you just left, right? So I didn't know that you were so well suited for the position they were hiring for, and then when I saw that, it was just like a no-brainer. I knew that they would love you the moment I brought it up, and sure enough, a few weeks later, here we are.
Well, thank you.
So,
but it really is just a testament to like being a part of this amazing community. Like we always feel like the underdogs in VR. We feel like the world just doesn't get it. And the thing I always mention is I remember when YouTube first started, all the mainstream consensus was YouTube is just where people upload videos of dogs on skateboards, and people now joke, well, that's now TikTok. And it's like, no, there's really good videos on YouTube that's not on TV. And it's genuinely how I feel about VR at the moment. So, with what we do at Without Parole, what we're going to be doing with Impact Reality. And I'd say to all the game cats out there, every time you have conversations with people about the great experiences you have in VR and championing it, this is all part of a movement to basically push forward the inevitability. VR is the future. It's just a question of not if, but when. And we, at this exciting stage, can help change the direction of, where it grows most by promoting the games that we feel best serve the platform as it is. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about our company is everyone fits this description. We were all just people who got into this as a hobby because we tried it and we thought it was so amazing, and we thought that we needed to share this with people to help it grow. And then our involvement over the years has become more and more and more until we've gotten to where we're at today, which, to be honest, like I would have never dreamed in a million years that I would be sitting here as a PR specialist for a company that's doing so many different things, even developing and porting games. It's just amazing how everything has come together, especially over the last few years. And I'm so grateful for it, and I feel so blessed, and I'm glad that I have you along on the journey with me now. It's awesome.
I'm not leaving dead air.
Oh,
Anyone
come
that's
on,
listening on the podcast is going to be like
great.
smacking their radio going, what's going on? Is it broken? Do you know, or you would know this, Brian, because I think you did radio. Like if there's dead air for so many seconds, it kicks in with like an emergency track.
I don't know.
Or is that early on?
I don't think I've ever done radio.
Have you not? I thought you did radio. You just always had a radio voice. I thought you did like a radio show once. Okay, maybe not.
I just really wanted to see how long we could leave dead air on and who was going to be the first one to crack. And I think I knew it was going to be you.
Yeah, I can't deal with it.
It's all right.
Well, of course. I mean, even if he wasn't as OCD about stuff like that as he is, like he just got out of that game, right? And the silence is not a comfortable thing right now.
It is so true. We're going to talk more about it later, but the audio design in that game is like unbelievable. And it's not just the sounds that are made, it's the sounds that are not made. The silence is just so gripping. Yeah.
Shout out to all the cats that recommended the Sony Pulse headset. People gave me a ton of different recommendations for earbuds, for over-the-ear headphones. They gave me high-end recommendations, low-end recommendations. They gave me all the information I possibly could have handled. And I said, you know what? Everyone seems to be enthusiastic enough about the regular Sony Pulse headset, and the price, for the price you can't go wrong. I was delighted to find out when it showed up that it's not just wireless, that you can plug it in just with the headphone jack on the PSVR2, because I hate wireless things. I have 17 things charging in my apartment at all times. I don't need an 18th thing. So just being able to be like, oh yeah, it's super convenient. Nice short little cable, does not get in the way.
I did not know that.
Oh, it comes with the headphone jack in the box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably did. It was ages ago. Just it's out there somewhere,
dude. And so for anyone who watched the Madison review that I put up today, that I've been working like around the clock for the last 3 days to get together, there was more of an emphasis on sound in this review, and so most people probably be like, "Oh, so Madison just must have better sound than other games," and the answer is, I don't fucking know. It's like maybe all the sound in all the games has been this amazing the whole time, but boy, do those Pulse headphones. This is not a paid sponsorship. God damn, it sounds like one though, but it really does. I mean, it's a game changer. As if VR wasn't immersive enough, over-the-ear headphones alone are so much better than earbuds. In the Pulse headset, just so good. I enjoy it. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It should be very noticeable moving up from the earbuds. Like even when I go back to the earbuds and I'm like, these aren't so bad. And then, I play with them for a couple of weeks and then I go back to over the ear headphones. It's always like smacks you in the face how much better, the over the ear headphones sound than the earbuds, even good earbuds. And I know I had some people take me to task for that last week when I said that. Oh, Wes, you just need different tips on your ear. Look, dude, they're earbuds. They could only be so good. But I admit I've never tried like an expensive set of earbuds, but like I know physics, like it would be very difficult for those to be as good as something that goes over your ears.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
I'm with you as well. Even from the comfort perspective, I just like over ears, like putting stuff in your ears all the time. Just nah.
And I'd heard somebody say this before, but I have to agree with them. It helps kind of keep the headset in place. Like it sort of just locks the PSVR2 like in one place. And so if you're the kind of person that's like, oh, the sweet spot is always kind of like moving out of my out of position, this really helps with that considerably. It's good, man. It's good. I actually waited to start Madison until my Pulse headset showed up on Saturday. I was like, I'm just gonna wait. I want to make sure I have the full experience, and I'm so glad I waited. So thank you again, everybody, for the recommendations. Always appreciate it. And if I didn't take your recommendation, it must have been because your recommendation was bad. That's the only plausible answer. We got a couple tips here. Let's kick it off with Samson143VR. I want to talk to Samson. With a $10 tip says, Doyle rules. Oh, I forgot we can like tips. Hell yeah. Thanks, Samson. Yeah. The Gamecat Andrew Ehrenreich with the $10 tip says, so I bought Happy Funland. Guys, apparently it doesn't matter if we only do this show once a week. We're just going to talk about the same shit every week. Anyway, thank you, Andrew, for bringing this up. He says, game is definitely a jank fest, but I highly recommend it to anyone who's always wanted to break into Disneyland at night while smoking copious amounts of salvia. Now, I'm going to like that. And then we have to make sure we read his next one because it does relate. His level 2 membership says, and P.S., I have no idea how we're supposed to store the putters on our back. P.P.S., can't wait for Madison. P.P.P.S., a Doyle rules.
He said P.P.P.
Yeah, I can't believe, even though they fixed a ton of shit in Happy Funland, I still can't figure out how to store that shit on my back. I have no idea what's going on with that. Oh shit, man. I learned that lesson last week. Everyone was like super, super generous with the tips, but we ended up spending like 30 minutes just doing tips. I promise you, I'm learning every week. We will not do that this week. We'll chop it up a little bit better, but we will tackle a couple more. Looper, the underground game cat with the €5 says, downloading Madison VR as you speak, not as we speak, as you speak. This one better be a short episode. I'll like it, but I can't promise anything.
Yeah.
Living Legend with the Canadian $2 tip says, happy West Day and congrats, Myles. No one like this one? Everybody, come on, everybody. Like this fucking tip, man, because congrats, Myles.
It's 2 Wise West Day. 2 Wise West Day.
I like it. That sounds good.
Okay. I'm down with that.
I don't know where the Y's go. They're like...
Just at the end, just stick them at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In the butt.
I guess that makes sense.
What? Jeesh with the $2 tip retracted his message or their message. Thank you very much.
You can't like a retracted message. That's a shame.
I can't, but I can heart it.
Okay.
I don't know. I've got the ability to heart and like fucking.
By the way, every week there's a new feature. Next week you're gonna be able to like it, heart it, and then
subscribe to it. Awesome. Killers won the Dreamweaver Gamecat with the $5 tip says, Impact Reality is slowly taking over Without Parole, LOL. I don't think slowly is the right word. I think they're Oh, well, like he says, AJ's next. Haha. Congrats, Myles. I'm so happy for you. Like,
Who says AJ's next? Maybe Brian's next. You know, Brian, I've considered, asking you if you want a new job, but you getting a new job means the channel goes away. I don't know if people would let me live through that.
Is Impact Reality interested in a buyout? because for the right amount of money, I will disappear forever.
Impact Reality Without Parole.
Let's do one more. Now let's try in the game feeling with the $5 tip. Says, tomorrow is my birthday, and all I wanted was for Madison to be good. Birthday wish granted. Wish I could like that one twice.
And happy birthday.
Yeah, happy early birthday, Now let's Ryan. Happy current birthday, Rypop.
Rypop, yeah.
I don't even think he's here because he's off celebrating, eating pizza with Canadian bacon on it, which, as we all know, is just fucking ham. Guys, a little bit of housekeeping before we really get the ball rolling here. Professor Lilith messaged me and said that Sunday multiplayer survey is up over on the Discord. If you love your PSVR2 but you don't have any friends to play it with, this is what you should be doing. Like, literally, go to a Discord and go see what games are being voted for Sunday's multiplayer meetup. It's every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. This week, the choices are Among Us, Gran Turismo 7, and Walkabout Mini Golf. Which one are you voting for, Wes?
Walkabout Mini Golf.
Hell yeah. It's always the right answer.
Gran Turismo 7 is the best game out of those three, but if we're talking about playing with friends, there aren't many games that rival Walkabout Mini Golf. That's just a cool, fun way to hang out and spend quality time with people.
Yeah, I need to check out the new Walkabout Mini Golf course. Although I would say Among Us does have, I don't know if it was a temporary mode or something, but it does have a new mode, a zombie mode. Have you played it?
There's a bunch of new content that's come to Among Us. I was curious whether or not it came to PSVR2 or not, because as we all know, they like to drag their feet a little bit. Brian, do you know if the new Among Us stuff is in the PSVR2 version?
I know nothing. I do not come to these shows prepared. So if you do know the answer in the chat, let us know so that we can be educated.
But the zombie mode is basically like a free-for-all, so it's not like you call meetings and then you stab. It's just someone is the zombie and everyone's just running around chaotically, locking doors and trying not to be the last one to be turned into a zombie. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Yeah, I think I don't know. I'd probably have to go for Walkabout as well. Although I will say, I hope they limit the lobby size, because Sirens on my end, once you get to a certain point, once you get past like 4 or 5 people, those games start taking forever, and it's like 20 minutes between turns, and you just got to bring a chair because you're just going to sit down and read a book while you wait for your turn. So yeah, I think 4 or 5 is kind of the magic answer there, even though you can play up to 8, I think, which is a lot. Maybe even 10. It's so many. Guys, listen, we're always so grateful for all of the people who support the channel, like financially, and all the people who subscribe, and to all the channels, of course. If you're not subscribed to Myles and Wes already over there, click the links in the description below and subscribe to them. Spread the VR love around. But every Monday we like to do something a little bit different, and that's a little shout out to all the people who changed their name to Gamecat to support the channel in a little bit of a different way. Now, usually AJ's here. And so I have no idea how this segment goes. Is AJ in the chat? Is there any way that he could kick this thing off? So yeah, we're going to list off all the people who changed their name to Gamecat this week. And it goes something like this. That's close. All right. The first one is AJ, Bryans minion, the Gamecat. Bing. Which I don't understand at all. AJ Bryans minion. I don't think AJ is my minion. I think, as we all know, it's AJ's channel. This is really unfair. I don't understand what's going on here. Second one is a Metro Game Cat. Bing. Bing. I think it's a reference to Metro Game and also Cat. I have no idea what's going on.
Also Cat.
Yeah. Mr. Lems, the Lang Game Cat. Bing. I don't even know what that means. I'm so confused. But he does have a picture of a Quest 2 and a PSVR 2 headset in his PFP, so I guess he's all about some free love. Number 4, Random Toxie, the Eraserhead Baby Gamecat. Bing. Have you guys seen Eraserhead?
Eraserhead.
You know what? I have not in its entirety, which is weird because I am a fan of David Lynch, but I've never seen the original, the OG Eraserhead, man. So I hear it's quite strange.
I had a friend give it to me on DVD when I was at high school, and was just like, it's a bit weird. And I watched it, and I was like, yeah, you kind of undersold that.
I like David Lynch stuff, but man, like I feel like there was a time in my life for it when I smoked a lot of pot and did a lot of acid and really felt like I had the time and wherewithal to like delve deep into the messages that he was trying to convey. These days, man, my brain just can't comprehend that shit nearly as well. Sirens on my end. And then finally we got I Can't Hear You, AJ, temporary Gamecat for life. Bing. I have no idea what that means, Simon, but I'm sure everyone in the chat does.
I tell you what, having that name read out again and again in my Let's Plays and my in-ear piece of I can't hear you, I just kept and then he would say, no, I can hear you fine, but every time he spoke it would be I can't hear you. I can't change it for a week, so you're gonna have to do it.
Shout out to I Can't Hear You, AJ, temporary Gamecat for life, because I'm pretty sure I saw this name in my most recent chat as well on Monday when we went live on Monday afternoon for the first time in years. We had a pretty good turnout, and I think one of the names I saw there was I Can't Hear You, AJ, temporary Gamecat for life. So thanks for showing up.
Yeah, he's been around forever, been a loyal viewer, and he keeps changing his name. So I keep forgetting what his original name was. Guys, if you change your name to GameCat because you want to support the channel and you love us almost as much as we love you, make sure you put hashtag GameCat. It's all one word, guys. Hashtag GameCat in the comments of any Without Parole video. And then I think AJ will be back next week and we'll right the ship and do that whole segment properly and give you a shout out for changing your name. Guys, one of the many reasons to join our Discord is because you can get your shit read on GamesCast Live. You don't even have to pay any money, man. You just like present a good question and we'll throw it into the show and maybe present a good answer. The likelihood on that is a little bit lower though. Like Gamecat Chicago did. Right here, it's hashtag viewer takeover. How confident are you in the new Alien Rogue Incursion game? Will it be the new Alien Isolation? Guys, I'm assuming that you've both seen the what they called the trailer for Alien Rogue Incursion. Myles, what were your thoughts on this? And was trailer the right word for it?
I mean, they may as well have put some media for people to share out there. I was at the WASD live event in London when it dropped, and I annoyed quite a few people because I said, oh, have you heard the news? Check out this trailer. And as it started playing on my phone, I was like, the gameplay's amazing. And then it would get to the end, and then they would just look at me super pissed off, going, you got to be kidding me. It literally just changes to that one still image. So yeah, look, it's one of those things where it's a bit annoying. It's like, yeah, they've never announced it publicly. It's just been in the talks, and so this is the first time they've ever really confirmed it publicly. So in that way, it's good for them to do that, and it's showing that the ball is rolling. But just to get also to the question that was asked about how this compares with Alien Isolation, I've not played Alien Isolation, but the reality is Servius are veterans in the VR space, and if it's going to be a spiritual successor to that, they know what high regard that game is held up into. And Alien Isolation, I think it was a mod that was the VR. There was never an official VR mode. And so with all of that, I just feel like for them to sort of they're basically putting their reputation on the line, getting behind such a big IP. And they've said, I think in a quote, that it's the most ambitious title they've done in their decades-long history. So, look, doesn't guarantee it's going to be great, but I do think if you want a dev team to be working on something like this, I think Servius is a great shout, and I wish them all the best.
Yeah, so a couple of things here. First of all, this conversation about the trailer. This happens every time there's a big budget game. The first one never has gameplay in it, right? Never. It's always some kind of cinematic or animation or something like this. So yeah, I want to see gameplay too, but I'm not worried about it. Like some people are like, oh, it must be terrible because they're not showing us the gameplay.
Right.
Like, no, I'm not worried about that at all. This is just what they do. There will be a gameplay reveal sometime this summer, probably at the Summer Games Fest or something like that, or maybe during a Sony showcase or something.
And they probably weren't. I was just going to say, and they probably didn't have anything planned at this point. It was Alien Day, and so someone in the office was like, "It's Alien Day.
Right.
Do you have something that we can just throw up there?" And it's like, "All right, these 2 slides, great." Like that was made on an afternoon, so it's basically rather something than nothing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have heard about it for God knows how many weeks and months. So yeah, with you on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, how confident am I that this is going to be great? I'm more confident than I should be, probably, because they're saying all the right things here. Now, with regard to this being some kind of a spiritual successor to Alien Isolation, I don't think this game is going to be very much like Alien Isolation at all, because they continue to refer to this as an action horror game. And while there was some action in Alien Isolation, that was prohibitively a stealth game. It was a horror game, so I mean they have that in common. But that was a stealth game. It wasn't much about the action. I think this is going to be much like a lot of Survios games are. I think it's going to be kind of arcadey. But I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Because it is, again, it's going to be somewhat scary, and they keep talking about this as this single player, story driven, like almost AAA Alien game, which I that ticks almost every box for me. So,
don't you think there's a bigger concern, Wes, though, that like, I mean, it's the VR community. I see Looper in the chat actually echoing my exact sentiments here. The VR community is tired of roguelites or roguelikes or whatever, right? And then they name their big Alien VR game Rogue Incursion. Like, it seems like if it's not a roguelike, this was maybe a misstep. Do you think it's going to be a roguelike?
Are we there now? Like, we've been dancing on this line over the past few months. Like, okay, it's almost enough now with the roguelites. So are we there now that we're like,
I've been there for months.
I don't know. Actually, honestly, hearing you say that just now was the first time that had even occurred to me.
Same.
Star Wars Rogue Squadron wasn't a roguelike, so that doesn't necessarily mean that this one will be. I mean, it could be, but I don't think that that's a given here. They haven't said anything to that effect, so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not that concerned about it, because while I too am starting to get sick of all the roguelike games, the good ones are still good. So there's still some possibility here. I think where I don't like about a lot of the recent roguelike games is that it artificially extends gameplay time, and therefore by proxy we're getting less content than what a normal game would have in it. That's where I get afraid of roguelites. But no, man, again, single player, story driven, Unreal Engine 5, from a team that, whether you like their games or not, they always do a great job with production. They always look good and sound good. So I do think this game is going to have some redeeming qualities. And for what it's worth, like Westworld Awakening might be my favorite game from Survios, and that was another adaptation from the screen that was single player, story driven. So there's a lot here that I like. I can't fully, give myself to it because it is Survios, and they did make Bad Awake. So there's that. But I'm fairly confident. I'm at about a 7.5 out of 10 on the confidence scale here.
I'm very, very interested to see what happens here, because when you look at Survios' history, they were around for PSVR1 like pretty much from the get-go, and over the course of like just 4 or 5 years, they knocked out about 6 games, it seemed like. It was like Raw Data, Sprint Vector, Electronauts, Battle Wake, Westworld that you just said I completely forgotten about, Creed Rise to Glory, and then the PSVR2 version of that, Walking Dead Onslaught. This was all in the same span of like 5 years. And so, but then we kind of haven't seen much of them for over, I mean, yes, there was the PSVR2 version of Creed, but other than that, like we really haven't seen anything from them for a couple of years. And if you look at it like that, I mean, like this could very well be one of their maybe the game that has the longest dev cycle in their entire history.
Yeah.
And Walking Dead might have been the reason for that. Walking Dead did not get a good reception. Onslaught, I mean, especially being compared to Saints and Sinners constantly, did not get a good reception. I think maybe at some point they said, we need to go back to the drawing board. We can't keep pumping out these games. Yes, they cost less to make, but we're not selling any. And so maybe this is their sort of push to get back into the AAA space.
And it's also, you go, Wes.
Sorry. I was going to say, and they keep describing themselves as legitimate fanatics for this franchise too. Now that could all be marketing speak and lip service, but if it's true, it makes you think that they might take a more of a perfectionist approach to it because they want to do it justice, and then especially coming off of Onslaught, like they want to show that they're better than that. So
yeah, and I think off the back of Onslaught, it's not that they would have ever gone in careless or anything, but it just, the reception it got would suggest you can be a good dev, and just because you have great IP doesn't necessarily make it a good game. And if anything, it actually makes there more scrutiny at what you're producing. And so when it comes to like, what is this game actually going to be, and the sort of genre of game, I think its success is actually going to come more down to, obviously gameplay mechanics are important in gameplay, but it's the tone. The question is, when we start seeing footage and gameplay, is the tone really going to hit the feel of Aliens? There's a lot of conversation with the new Alien Romulus movie coming out, which I believe takes place somewhere between Alien and Aliens. And from the trailer so far and the words, they've gone back to not using CGI, using animatronics. I saw this video the other day of them using the face hugger animatronic, like controlling it around the floor. Looked absolutely horrific. But that's what the fans of Alien and Aliens or the whole series look at, is it true to the feeling of what it's like? And I think whether you're fans of the movies, fans of the game, Alien Isolation, there is a lot of scrutiny on this. And if they are fans as they say they are, and I believe them, take them at their word, the scrutiny is going to be through the roof. And so they're going to have to take their time with this. And yeah, if it's a bit arcadey, that's fine. The tone of arcadiness, and I'm not suggesting they do this, the way you wouldn't want them doing it is when you're shooting a xenomorph and numbers are pinging off for the headshots. That would completely ruin the tone of the game. So
you know what though, that would be an improvement over just having a wall of green mist following you around with the sounds of xenomorphs instead of actual xenomorphs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not played any Alien games, actually. None. Not even the latest one that got ported to VR with the mod. What was it? It was not Space Marine.
Aliens Fireteam Elite. We just
Fireteam Elite.
Played that last week. Actually, it was really good.
And how was it? I know it's obviously a sort of a mod, but like, what do the xenomorphs feel like being in the space with them in VR?
Right,
it's arcade, right?
Yeah, it is. It is arcade. That's the thing. Like it was intense. It wasn't like horror games scary or anything, but it was intense because these things really swarm you, and it's almost like After the Fall, where they're coming at you from multiple directions. They pull your attention over here, and then they come from behind, that sort of thing. And it's always in these very small spaces and corridors. So it's an intense game. It gets your pulse up a little bit. I wouldn't call it scary, but then again, we just played through the first couple of levels, so it could get more horrific as we go, I suppose.
You guys know I got my Polymega not that long ago, and so I've been playing a lot of PlayStation 1 games in my spare time, and I gotta hand it to Alien Trilogy and Alien Resurrection, both on PS1, like early first-person shooter games that like really nailed the atmosphere. Still scary, man. They're just the tracking device I don't remember if it had a name or not.
Yeah.
But like that being such an integral component of those games, of the movies, and of Alien Isolation. I mean, just if we're not holding one of those in VR, then like I'm gonna fucking riot. Like, talk about a game where sound is really important. Like we need Dead Space vibes coming from this thing, right? Where it's like you could always hear the monsters in the walls, and then they like jump out through a grate, and it's just insane. Like, so even if they do kind of focus on the action, that element of horror has to be there to kind of like complete the vision, I think, or maybe this isn't going to land properly. But that's my hope. I think it's going to be fine no matter what. And they've obviously given it more time than all their other games, and probably more time than they expected to. I think the response when they announced the game were, "Oh, this is Alien Isolation," and even now, people are like, "This still better be like Alien Isolation," you know. And then we didn't hear until kind of recently the CEO talk on the podcast about, how he wants this to be a spiritual successor to Alien Isolation. And I was like, oh, well, that seems like a little different than what you probably had in mind initially. But I am definitely looking forward to see some gameplay. That'll push me up to a 7.5 West where you're at. Currently, I'm kind of simmering at like a 4.3, maybe 4.4 on a good day. I'll get there. Flippy Nuggets in the chat says, so it's now just Without Parole. Are we covering Quest and PSVR now? Did I miss the announcement? Well, that's an interesting point, because did you guys see the announcement that Camoflaj is developing a Batman VR game exclusively for Quest 3?
I did. It's a Batman Arkham game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their first trailer of this big budget VR game. And guess what? It was a cinematic trailer.
And guess what?
So it must be terrible. The gameplay must suck.
Yep. Listen, Behemoth is going to be the one that comes along and changes everybody's mind about CGI trailers. Right? If Behemoth comes out and it looks beautiful and it plays great and it's amazing and it delivers on all the things that the CGI promised us, then we're going to be like, hey, you know what? CGI trailers aren't so bad. But if Behemoth comes out, the future of VR is resting on Skydance Interactive. Let's be fair. That's exactly what's happening. I see Tiff in the chat. But yeah, we're not fucking covering Quest. Go watch Wes's channel for that shit. Come on now.
2 hours later. This is
I actually ordered a Quest 3 today. I get it tomorrow. It's happening.
Here's my Quest 3, and it's been in the box since Wes and I did our episode about some upcoming PSVR2 games that we demoed on Quest 3. So if this channel is becoming a Quest channel, then I am sadly very far behind on my homework. No, I just don't like it's wordy, man. I don't like the words PSVR2 Without Parole. Like, it's like, listen, when I watch like Last Stand Media and I actually hear Colin Moriarty, somebody that I looked up to for years, say the words PSVR2 Without Parole while I'm, playing a video game or something, I look over and I'm like, that's fucking cool, man. Like, it doesn't matter what the channel name is when you hear somebody that you respect like that say those words and you're like, fuck, man, that's so cool that he just said my channel name. That being said, the channel's always been called Without Parole. I changed it to PSVR Without Parole for SEO reasons. I changed it to PSVR2 Without Parole for SEO reasons. And like, I honestly just don't care that much about channel growth. Like, I want to just do what I do. I want to play video games and talk about them with my friends and review the ones that I want to. I have no desire to be the biggest VR channel out there. I don't even have a desire to be the biggest PSVR2 channel out there. Right? I just want to like do what we do and have fun. And so I was like, let's remove all this SEO stuff. We have this awesome community. If we build it, like, if it got 10 times bigger in the next year, we'd have fucking 10 times as many problems. And I'm just not into that. I think taking some time off and stepping away and coming back, I came back to this with a different perspective. I'm like, I just want to enjoy this, and I'm not interested in the rat race. And so that's what this is all about. And I hope that everyone's on board and you can put all the conspiracy theories away. Right, although they were hilarious. This is what we're going to keep doing. And people told us, like, we don't want you to do anything else. Right?
Bryans joined the MetaQuest Creator Academy.
No, seriously though, that's awesome, Brian. And I think you'll find, and I think everyone will agree, when you divest yourself from that rat race, then the content benefits from that because you're doing what you want, you're having fun, and that shines through always.
Also, fuck Sony. Like, we're blacklisted by Sony. Okay, listen, yes, we're a PSVR2 channel, but like, you know, the last thing I want to be doing is like, yeah, Sony, right? When they're like, it refused to acknowledge our existence and shit, right? So it's like, I mean, it's good, man. It's good. I feel more like myself without the little PSVR2 moniker in front of it. And as Looper pointed out, yes, I still haven't changed all the graphics. Some stuff needs to be updated, like my name tag.
And you never spelled PSVR2 the right way anyway.
That's right. I couldn't figure out where all the spaces were supposed to go. It's craziness.
It's unbelievable, dude. It's still one of the worst decisions ever. Just right. Unbelievable, man. And how like, they decided that.
It wasn't bad enough that Sony couldn't get it right? PS space VR2, right? But then every single other publication always writes it PSVR space 2. And it's like, so like we can't even get the spaces in the right place to begin with.
No, I know.
We just need to get rid of it altogether.
P space SVR space 2.
And you spell out 2 TWO.
I do P dash lowercase s ellipses VR space 2.
You can imagine their marketing department. They were just, it was all signed off, and then they were getting the marketing plan, and they were like, shit, how are we going to do hashtags if there's a space in it? You can't do hashtags with spaces in it. We're going to have to put the PSVR2 together as one. Oh, fuck. And Jim Ryan was like, yes, my plan worked. Now I'm leaving you with this mess.
Right. Grandpa's Barbecue or Gamecat with the level 1 membership says, congrats, Myles. Morning chat and Gamescast. Morning. Where the fuck are you? That's morning. Is it morning in Australia? I have no idea how the world works.
Good morning. Good morning.
Andrew Bailey with the 2 quid says, happy West Die and stuff. Wow. I mean, I gotta like that, but only because I liked everyone else's, not because it was. No. Andrew knows what's up. Living Legend with the Canadian $5 tip says, I like the once a week stream because it gives you more time to play these games and fully enjoy the experience instead of rushing them for review.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it gives me time to play them before GAMESCAST, I guess, more fully. But I've never rushed a game for review. I just don't do the review. that's what I think. That's what GAMESCAST has sort of caused is sort of like it kind of made the work pile up, and then eventually you're like, there's so much work piled up. I don't think I have time for any of this. And so I do think that I'm always going to play games the same way when I review them. But I think now have time to at least get a review done every week. I couldn't believe how long fucking Madison took me to review. Like. It had been a month since I'd done another review. I think Overdark was the one prior to it. And man, these things just take forever. So I do apologize if you're out there asking me, where's your mixture review? Where's your Soul Covenant review? These things just take forever. So
someone in the chat was asking, when does Madison VR come out? I mean, I don't know if it's the same globally. I assume it is. It's going to be in 13 minutes.
For you, right? Because it's going to be midnight there in 13 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Is it midnight for wherever you are?
Where I am, it is counting down also to midnight. So my guess would be in most places we're getting a midnight release.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hold on, I didn't like Living Legends tip. I gotta like it. It's important. We got Fox Die Infected with the €5 says tipping without parole. I like it.
I love that.
Killers won the Dreamweaver Gamecat with a $5 tip says, now you tell me, Brian, just take a Sharpie and put an X through PSVR2 on my artwork to make it accurate. I would never. I haven't even taken it out since I got back from PAX Kill Artist because I haven't had a chance to go and get it framed, and I don't trust Tornado around it. I don't trust it just being in my apartment until it's protected by a frame. But yeah, I can't wait to be able to hang that somewhere behind.
I was so worried about bringing it back, putting it in my bag, and making sure it wasn't getting crushed. But it's all in good condition.
Rachel, the janky Gamecat, throws us another viewer takeover question. Says, what's the Paroles Board early predictions for PSVR2 Game of the Year 2024? If I had to say, it would be Wanderer, Fragments of Fate, but maybe something new and unknown will blow us all away. I think Wander is a really good shout. I think Wander is going to be awesome, especially since we know that. I mean, that game came out over 2 years ago on PSVR1, and it was already just amazing. And so these guys have put in over 2 years of work just updating the game. Never mind like starting a new game from scratch, creating a sequel, anything like that. And so I think Wander is a pretty good shout. What's your take on that, Wes?
I'm fairly excited about Wander. I can't fully let myself get excited about it because it is not a sequel. It is a remake. With that said, it's a remake of what was our game of the year 2 years ago. So, like, it's a great game. It is literally a great game. I know that they are putting some new content in there. I'm just hoping that it's different enough because it is very heavily story driven and it is a puzzle game. I hope that it's different enough that it feels like a new game, right? I don't know that will be the case. I'm sure it will be better. It'll certainly have better production. But I can't completely sell out on it because of the fact that I know it's a remake of a game that I did finish. It was great, so I had to finish it. But game of the year nominees, I don't know. I know Behemoth is coming this year, or is supposed to be coming this year, and the one from Vitruvius, whose name is escaping me right now.
Arcanage, hell yeah.
Arcanage is coming this year, and I have high hopes for that. And then there's that other game that we recently played. What was that one called again, guys?
Don't know.
That one that
I don't suppose.
It's kind of scary.
Overdark.
Overdark. It's Happy Fun Land. It's Happy Fun Land.
Right. Game of the year nominees for sure. Myles, any of these games sound like game of the year contenders to you, or potentially, considering we haven't played them?
I mean, Behemoth's an interesting one. Behemoth, however you want to say it. I like a lot of these games have double pronunciations.
I don't think. I think you're just pronouncing it wrong half the time. I don't know what
maybe
double pronunciations.
We will never know. That's part of the fun, isn't it? I know we got like Metro Awakening's coming out this year.
Bro, it's so easy to even forget that that's coming. Like,
also, Zombie Army VR is out this year.
Yep.
Out of those two, which are you most hyped for? And actually, maybe not hyped for because it might be about your preference for a game. Which of the two do you think is going to be, like, guessing is going to be the strongest contender for Game of the Year? Metro Awakening or Zombie Army VR?
Oh, that's tough.
I agree. I'm in a very similar frame of mind with both of those games.
Yes, same.
Man, I want to say Metro, but is Vertigo handling it?
Vertigo is handling it.
Yeah. So I don't. I mean, I don't have anything against Vertigo. I just kind of have like I think the Vertigo vibe is very specific, and it tends to not be, geared toward what I enjoy so much in VR games. So I don't know how Metro it's going to feel, and I don't know how Vertigo it's going to feel. And based on the result of that scale, is it going to be a little more Metro heavy? If it's more Metro heavy than Vertigo heavy, I think I'll love it. But I just have the feeling that Zombie Army is going to be the better game.
Yeah. And then finally, a game that we've been waiting for a while, and it just keeps getting delayed, Phasmophobia. I think Phasmophobia, if and I've not played it before on other platforms than that, but if they nail it and it's one of those co-op games that everyone just keeps talking about, and it's not just a co-op game that's really fun, but it's one that you're like, I can't wait to get back into it again and play, and you're sort of calling up your mates going, are you free so we can jump into Phasmophobia tonight? I think that could be a strong contender. Because for me, I think that's when VR really excels. Not to say single player games aren't important, they definitely are. But I think that Game of the Year contender in terms of where the energy is among the community as a whole, I think it can be that. Like, I think about Walkabout Mini Golf and stuff, just people saying, I can't wait to get into another game. Obviously, that being out for a lot longer on other platforms, so the energy kind of, peters out a little bit as it comes to PSVR2. Whereas Phasmophobia is not out on VR on any platform, or is it on early access on PSVR?
It's on
it
PSVR.
is. It's an early access. Yeah, it's an early access PSVR.
Okay.
It has been for years, actually.
Okay. So I mean, there's a lot. I know I haven't really answered, but like those are the kind of things in my mind for contenders for Game of the Year.
You know what else? The heretofore unannounced Astrobot sequel.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's going to be the Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many good games still coming this year, and those are just the ones that we know about. I love it.
Yeah, or Returnal VR that just got. Oh no, it didn't get announced.
Right.
No, it didn't.
So, what are our feelings about today's topic, about the game that we played, Madison VR, in the running for Game of the Year? Do we think it has any chance by the time this conversation happens again in December or whenever it happens? Do we think it's going to be a contender?
I would say definitely a contender. I feel that how likely that is, I would be able to give a better answer in like 48 hours time, because obviously we've seen the reviews and it's been had a lot of positive reviews across the board, but I'm just interested to see in the community, like once you sort of like you go out the degrees of hardcoreness with horror fans and VR fans, like to summarize Madison VR, this is like the most hardcore of horror across genres. I mean, I keep describing it as a watershed moment for horror as a genre, in my opinion. I felt that leading up to it. Having played it today, I think it holds up to that. Anyone I've ever known that is a fan of horror, and actually I was texting a lot of friends this week saying, how much are you a fan of horror? And it's like, if they're a fan of horror, when they're at mine, I'm going to put them in this, even if it's just for the beginning. Just say, look, because it gets straight into it, as you say in your review, like the tutorial is happening within the story, and you instantly feel the atmosphere, which permeates throughout the entire game.
I got to interrupt you, Myles, real quick, because I don't want to get too far from this. This opening scene, somebody posted the review from the 6th Access in our Discord today, and I was like, I'm interested to see what they have to say about it. They literally ruined the entire story at the very beginning of the second paragraph. Like,
what?
Yeah, they're making it seem like we knew something all along that we absolutely don't, and it just fucking ruins everything by reading their review. And I was amazed that no one stopped that. So be very, very careful. I know that I've seen people here in the chat. I've seen people, during your live stream today, Myles, even comments on my review saying, "Hey, thanks for the videos, but I can't watch until after I played. I don't want to spoil anything." And if you're one of those people that doesn't want to spoil anything, be fucking careful, because there are spoilers everywhere. The game's been out for 2 years, flat screen, so it's really hard to avoid them at this point.
That is wise advice. Just stop watching anything on this, because even
including this, I'm showing gameplay right now.
Yeah, and there will be video footage of jump scares in Bryans' footage right now. I guarantee it.
Yep.
That won't land the same if you're expecting them. So you might want to look away or scroll down the screen or something, and just listen for a few minutes. Will this be Game of the Year? I don't know. I don't know if it'll have a broad enough appeal,
right?
To be a Game of the Year. It will definitely be a nominee, and it might end up being my favorite game. I fucking love this game so much. It's so scary. And Brian, we talk about horror games all the time on here. Like, I talk about the reason why I like horror is that on that rare occasion in VR that a horror game will actually make me feel something. Like, it'll actually make my pulse come up. And it doesn't happen often. I don't scare easily. Most of the time, I just think that the horror games are cool, and I really enjoy the atmosphere or whatever. This game is fucking scary, dude. It is legit scary. And it's not just that there's some scary stuff in there that really works. I'm uneasy the entire time that I played this game. Like, I never feel comfortable in it. And I'm not talking about motion sickness. I'm talking about the way that they play with Dead Space, and I
Yes.
mean on a visual level and on an audio level, that they realize something that most horror game developers do not realize, and that is, in a game like this, less is more. Darkness. If they're giving you a dark area and with proper ambiance, then you're anticipating any fucking terrible thing being in that dark area. And the silence is deafening sometimes in this game. That they just keep you on the edge of your seat the whole time. And oh, by the way, the story that they're telling here is fucking bone chilling.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it's just that they do everything well. The jump scares even work in this game, and I'm not a big fan of jump scares in games, but they do them rarely enough, and they do them just the right way that they work almost every time. And I haven't played through it like you have, Brian. I'm only about, I would imagine, halfway through, or maybe even a little less. But so far, I'm fucking loving this game.
I want to throw this in real quick because I meant to find time to go capture new footage for Gamescast, but instead this is from like 5 patches ago. Over the weekend, Perp was listening to everybody, who was playing the game, who was experiencing any problems, any bugs, and so this is like, we were having problems like grabbing door handles and opening drawers and whatever, and I completely forgot about that. And so I didn't capture new footage for this. So if you see me trying to hold on to things and my hands slipping away and struggling with door handles, that has all been fixed. That's something I mentioned in my Patreon playthrough, but completely forgot for today's Gamescast. So please keep that in mind. It seems like they've addressed all the issues that I was experiencing for the most part. We've got a couple of quibbles that we will address throughout the course of this. But yeah, man, Wes, I'm glad you kicked it off talking about the horror specifically, because it tackles so much. I mean, it just as I mentioned in my review, like it's very clear at the beginning of the game, just by looking at your hands, at your arms, you're a young kid, and then somebody's pounding on the door, seemingly like your father, being like, "You're not my son, you're not my son," and like screaming at you, and it just feels like, what the fuck did I just step into, right? And so like immediately, like there's this like psychological horror thing going on, and as you progress through the game, I feel like it just touches upon so many different themes as you progress through. And so there's a lot of games out there where you get comfortable with what they're throwing at you because they kind of keep throwing the same thing at you through the entire game, right? Whether it be monsters or whether it be jump scares or whether it be just, the atmosphere getting really, really thick. Like you kind of like, the more time you spend in any one place, you get used to it, and you kind of like get comfortable with what the developers are capable of. And that's something I've always talked about in my reviews, saying until you know what the developers are capable of in any horror game, then you don't really know how comfortable you should feel. And Madison made sure, the team over at Bloodiest Games made sure that I never fucking felt comfortable. I never trusted the development team to rest on their laurels and keep throwing the same shit at me, because shit kept changing. They used every trick in the book, and then they showed me some new tricks. And until the very end, I felt like I couldn't breathe properly until the end of the game. I was just like so uncomfortable. And for horror fans like us, I'm not talking about you, Myles, horror fans like me and Wes, this is like such a blessing. This is so cool to experience this. A game that has not made me feel like this since Resident Evil 7. A game that made me go, I need to take this headset off because my brain cannot be convinced right now that I'm safe. My brain is terrified. My heart is racing. I need to take the headset off for 5 minutes just to regain my composure and then get back in there. And so this is a big, as you said, Myles, this is a big moment for VR. And it's a big moment for horror games because this really takes it up another notch to another level, and I really appreciate it.
This is the best example of pure horror that I've seen in VR. Like Resident Evil 7 is a great game. All the Resident Evil games are great, but those are action horror games, right? So it isn't just about the scares. in that, or the environment, or the atmosphere. And Resident Evil 7 has some of the best atmosphere and environment that you'll ever experience. But there's stuff in that game to kind of make you forget that you're scared from time to time. That does not happen here. This is a slow-paced puzzle game with thick atmosphere, and it's all about scaring you. The whole thing is about making you terrified, and they do a very effective job, to say the least.
I mean, I've not obviously completed Resident Evil 7, but like what makes the game so fantastic from the get-go is you don't feel like you're in a game at the start. You feel like you're in a movie. And obviously as you unlock new sort of mechanics and that, it sort of does lend itself to be more of a game. I kind of think about with Resident Evil Village, absolutely terrifying from the get-go. And then as soon as I've got a gun, my tension goes down a little bit. Obviously there's still going to be scary moments and stuff. Madison, you feel like you're in a real location. You feel like you are in a movie. Like you feel like there is something going on. You don't feel like it's about levels. It's just completely fluent and you're going through these experiences. I am still aching all through my body earlier. I played for an hour and 40, which blew my mind. I played for that long. And towards the end, getting frustrated with a couple of puzzles, I thought like, oh, maybe I'm a lot calmer now and I'm getting used to it. And it was only when I took the headset off, I realized, oh no, I wasn't getting used to it. I was in just heightened tension just for such a prolonged period that became the new normal. And it was when I put the headset down, I was like, right, I need to go and relax and do something else. For me, there are two types of horror games. I always talk about this. There are those that are sort of fun horror. So it could be like Switchback, or I'm trying to think of other fun horrors, but games that are more action heavy. I think actually Resident Evil 4 have scary moments, but it's good fun. You sort of you're laughing as you're playing because it's just so out there. And you know, there's jumpy moments, but it's kind of like at the fun fair. And then there's like existential dread horror, which is just this oppressive feeling around you that there's this constant sense of doom and gloom. And I felt that with the beginning of Resident Evil Village. I knew this is what Madison's blueprints were, which is why I was always hesitant about playing this game since, you know, it was announced coming to VR. And I thought, what am I getting myself into? But when you actually get into the mechanics of horror, it's all a personal thing, but I think this relates to a lot of people. There are two characteristics of horror games that I really struggle with. One is oppressive sense of dread. This game, it's continuous and non-stop and relentless. And secondly, it's about things that get into your personal space. This game feels incredibly claustrophobic. There were scenes in this game that, obviously I've seen it on the flat screen, I've seen it on trailers and promos, that when I was in the VR, I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was this enclosed. Like you see the clip from the beginning, like squeezing through the walls and that, like into tight spaces. You feel like you're squeezing through tight places. Like sometimes when you play VR games, you feel like you're just doing like this animated thing. In this, it's like, no, you're really shimmering along and just hoping you can get through to the other end. And you know that anything could be around every single corner.
Well, it helps, Myles. And it's not something I even noticed like for the first hour or two. But the haptics in this game are so good that like when your hands hit the walls, they vibrate, right? Mm-hmm. And so especially when you're going down those narrow little corridors, you're scooching through like the tiny crawl space, you're acutely aware of how small that space is, because every time you try to move your arms out, you feel that vibration. And just, you know, the haptics don't end there. I don't want to derail what you're saying here, but like, no, but Luke has got some issues, right? And every time he has a little bit of an episode, so you feel the headset starts pulsing and vibrating, and it's like,
that is so good.
It's really well done, because there's been so many times where like, this is too much, this is excessive, right? But this is not. This is perfectly balanced.
We always think about the fact that it's not haptics in the headset; it's just one motor. And this is an example where they've really nailed the nuances with this headset rumble. The other thing is, this is going to sound like the most ridiculous sort of commentary to make about this game. These are the best VR arms in VR ever, because because I was playing the game, and when I was seeing the previews, I thought, oh, maybe it's just like, your forearms and that was it. And it's like, oh no, you have the full arms going up to your shoulders, and you can't. It's not like if you look around, you can see it clipping, and then you see there's no body there. Like, it will always be out of sight. Maybe I'm mistaken. It's possible, but like the arms don't feel awkward. I just think in terms of like the movement of the arms and that, and again with the touching the walls, there was a bit where I was in a room, again I'm not going into specifics, where the ceiling was quite low, and I remember looking up and touching the ceiling and feeling it and just seeing the arms. It all just felt so immersive. The shining of the light on like your bloody or your wet, sweaty hands. How fucking cool. I know it was a gimmick in the trailer, hitting the light bulb with your hands.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Like the way the lighting and the shadows, like when the light bulb swings behind you and you're like, oh fuck, that's way dark, I need it back.
Well, even like, yeah, it's way dark, I need it back. But also when it swings close to the wall and it illuminates this previously completely pitch dark section, and you're like, man, I'm a little worried, because this game is so good about doing that thing that I love in VR games or really horror games, that when you turn your head and then you look back, something has changed. This game does it a lot. Sometimes it does it so much you won't even fucking notice, right? You'll hear something move, and then you won't even know what just moved because you weren't paying attention, right? And so so I was really nervous when that light bulb was swinging back and forth, being like, oh, this time when it illuminates, it's going to illuminate something else, and it's going to freak me the fuck out, right? So because you become aware of what this game's capable of, anything's a possibility. And so you hit the light bulb, and you like, even though maybe nothing happens, it's still terrifying because you know that they're capable of making something happen, and it's terrifying.
Can I ask you guys if you, during your playthroughs, were there any moments where you were literally walking down the corridor covering your face with your arms, your virtual arms, to like, because you didn't want to look? I mean, maybe it was just me. There were a couple of moments I was like, please don't have anything pop up there. Like, it just felt so immersive in that way that it was amazing. No,
I didn't ever quite get to that level where I was physically covering my eyes, but there was a couple of times that I've noticed that my body was contorted in an unnatural way just because I was so nervous. Right.
Then I think this is what you wanted to hear, Myles. There were moments. There's points in the game where you have like only a lighter to light your way, which is a little bit interesting because using the camera at first to be the only thing you have to illuminate something for a split second, I thought was fascinating. And so the fact they actually gave you a light source at some point, I was kind of surprised by. But then you're walking through like a maze, and I'm holding this lighter out in front of me, and I'm just staring at the ground as I'm walking through because it's the depth that they've given you, the visual depth they've given you, where there's like almost like this fog just like 4 feet ahead of you. It's too much, man. Anything could have stepped out of that fog at any given point. And so I'm trying to get through a maze with my head down, looking at the water, or even with my eyes closed, because I'm just like, this is a lot, man. It's a lot. It very frequently gets to that point where it's just exhausting. And I don't remember who tipped and asked about, rushing through games and shit. And I was like, dude, I played through this game very differently than if I had just purchased it on my own and was playing it for fun. I knew that I was, we were coming up to this day where we're going to talk about it on GAMESCAST, where we're coming up to embargo, where everyone's going to get their reviews out. And I was like, and so I ended up playing it pretty much nonstop Sunday, like from start to finish. It was a few breaks in between just to kind of give my body a break. And so I probably would have played this 45 minutes a day. Otherwise, I would still be playing this. I would only be halfway through it. So give yourself a break if you're struggling to get through it.
There's certainly enough here that you could take it in bite-sized chunks. Because horror elements aside, which that is relentless, nonstop, uneasiness and fear that you're feeling the whole time. But all of that stuff aside, this is a really well done puzzle game. Underneath all of that, like the puzzles are not pushovers. They're not easy. Mm-hmm. You will get stuck from time to time, And I love that about this. Like most puzzle games these days, it seems like it's either impossibly difficult and totally cryptic, or it's just an afterthought. And the act of doing a puzzle, like AJ put it recently, is more like a problem solving than actual working in puzzles. This is a legitimate puzzle game taking place over an expanding map that you do have to backtrack in some, but again, the environments are so great here. Like I don't mind that at all. You know what they do really well in this game, and it's something that other games have done before, but I've never quite realized what it does to me on an emotional level. This game, the environments in it, so you're at your grandpa's house, right? So there's lots of old technology. There's old black and white pictures on the wall. There's lots of old furniture, and everything has this kind of like super retro feel to it in terms of the way it looks and feels. And I've always thought that was cool, but I've never really quite realized until now why that's so effective in horror games. And I think the reason that that's so effective in horror games is it puts you back in that mind space of being young, right? Well, the last time you saw this stuff in your real life was when you were a little boy. And during that period in your life, you're much more likely to be afraid of what's in the dark, right? You're much more likely to believe in spirits and possessions and all of the ideas that these games are putting forth.
What are you trying to say?
To you?
These are still all the things that I have issues with. I definitely still believe in spirits. I definitely am still scared of the dark on occasion.
Yes, definitely. But since I know that about you, think back to your childhood. I'm sure there were times that you were up all night just because you were so terrified of these things.
Yes.
And that's the mind space that this game puts you in just through the design of the environment. And through nothing more than that. And then that's the foundation that they're building on. Yeah.
I mean, and I think all of this is helped by just how beautiful this game looks. Right? I mean, I always get really nervous when I use the word photorealistic or photorealism, but I used it when we were talking about Paranormal Activity on PSVR 1, right? It was able to achieve that sort of because it had like this sparse type environment and like really enclosed house. You were almost never outside, and so but there was something about the art style that felt really photorealistic to me, or as close as we were going to get on PSVR 1. And then here we are in Madison. This thing got delayed kind of last minute. We got it got brought up from 60 or 120 frames reprojected to 90 native, and it's using eye-tracked foveated rendering. And I think I'm going to stick with this is about as close to photorealism as we've seen in VR, and Perp did an amazing job of getting the resolution up as high as they could and the frame rate being silky smooth. And I think all of that has something to do with how convincing all of this looks and how much I feel like I'm actually in this house when I'm playing it. And then all that adds up to being scared, right? Way more terrified because your brain is having a harder time separating fact from fiction. Am I wrong? Is photorealism the wrong word to use for this?
No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, this game does not land the same way if it weren't so realistic. The experience, not only visually, but with the sound. You know, it's become a bit of a catchphrase in VR over the years that graphics aren't everything. Well, that all depends on what type of game you're playing.
Right.
A game like this, it solely depends on the fact that you believe that you're in this situation. So while it is a great puzzle game and they do so many great things with it, it doesn't work if you can't suspend disbelief and immerse yourself in this game. And it just so happens that this might be, like you say, the best example of photorealism that we've seen in VR. And it isn't just about fooling yourself that you're there, Myles. It's also about what they're doing with light and shadows, because a lot of the stuff that you're seeing, a lot of the stuff that's really getting your creep factor up is stuff that you're seeing in your peripheral, things that are just kind of moving in the real-time shadows. It's just masterfully done, and I don't think it works as a Quest game, so to speak. This only works as a high-end VR game.
Man, I'm seeing some questions here in the chat, and Radboy wants me to start a poll. He's asked a couple of times, but I have no idea what he wants the poll to be about. So let me know, man. Tell me, and maybe I'll make a poll. I don't fucking know. Aaron Quinn says, is Madison getting a physical release? I hate how so many PSVR2 games are digital only. This is definitely getting a physical release, and it's getting some extra perks, some digital perks, and some physical perks to go along with it. They just don't have a release date yet. It's going to be very soon. I believe it's supposed to be out within the next month. They're just trying to nail down an actual release date, and they don't want to delay it like they delayed the digital version so many times. So they don't want to give you one date and then stick with that. Dan Kiefer says, is this based on a movie or is it an original title? It is definitely an original title, Dan Kiefer.
Original.
This is, I would say this is in the group of games that all sort of got inspired by PT. Like a bunch of games got announced. Like it was like Visage, and I remember there was a game called Allison Road, and there was Madison, and they all sort of looked like PT. When PT got canceled or Silent Hills got canceled, a lot of indie developers picked up the slack and kind of created games that were like, oh, maybe we're going to make our own type of PT. And I do feel like that this is, I don't know if maybe I don't have my time frames right, but that's where I feel like this sort of came from. This has been out for 2 years already, and it was probably in development for 2 or 3 years prior to that. So I think that might line up pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that I thought of as soon as I started the game. I was like, wow, this really feels like PT. So I'm with you there.
Red Boy wants a poll about what they were buying. I'll create the poll. Have we talked enough about the horror element of this? Do we need to move on to another element of Madison?
The last thing I would say was just before the show, I was starting to edit some clips from my Let's Play, and there was a really funny moment. I'm not going to go into specifics, but it was where I went into a room and there was a sound that you're always hearing random sounds of creaking, stuff getting knocked over, doors opening and stuff. And having watched other people play it, because it was in the opening part of the game, and I know people had previews early, they just walked through it because they didn't have that particular sound. But I basically went in, heard a sound, and went, oh my God. And then I took a photo, nothing was there, and I was like, that's fine. And then I literally went, okay. And then I took a step forward, and then a jump scare triggered. And it was just this hilarious moment where my guard, like your guard never goes down in this game. The only time it goes down is when you've just gone over a peak of like even heightened. So it's not as if like I was totally relaxed. I just was like, I think we're good now. And then it just took me totally off guard, and it was the biggest scare. And it's not a particularly like important jump scare. It's actually a minor one, but just the context of how you're always on edge, I think once again goes to the heart of why they've absolutely nailed this game. Visually, and I do think the audio is the best thing of this entire game, despite it looking so good. The audio, as we mentioned again and again, is absolutely phenomenal.
Did you ever stop trying to answer the phone?
No. Well, it's only rung once for me, and I got there, and I didn't make it in time. Yeah, it was really frustrating.
Yeah, I was up in the attic trying to solve the attic puzzle, and that thing was fucking ringing incessantly. And I was like, I'll be right there. I'm just trying to solve this puzzle. Like, I think I have all the pieces I need to solve this, and the phone's just ringing nonstop in the background. And the game desperately wants me to come downstairs and like answer the phone, and I'm like so determined not to do it. In retrospect, I should have. The house isn't that big. That's somebody in the chat was like, why is this game so small, like file size wise? And it's because the house isn't that big, right? I think it's a great size for the 7 to 8 hour game that you're experiencing, and there's so many locked doors and so many things that and so many times that you're sort of like brought somewhere else that has nothing to do with the house, that it's fine. But if you're like, why is the file size so small and the game looks so beautiful? It's because, the house is that big. It just takes a long time to sort of unlock it all, like hitting the wall with a hammer. This is the most ridiculous footage I could have possibly chosen. It does feel good, man, when you hit, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the special sauce is, because, there's been plenty of games where you're hitting things, right? in game, and like it just doesn't. I don't know. It's not that convincing. But there's something that works perfectly between the loud thump 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 that they're giving you with each hammer slam. And it feels like I don't know, man. It just really works. They really nailed the special sauce on this one.
Well, this might serve as a good segue to another part of Madison, Brian, because the hammer at the beginning, I held it and I thought, great, I can walk around and just hold this hammer in front of me and it will just give me this feeling of strength. And I got to a door with the hammer and I was trying to open the door. And actually, one thing is many of the doors are locked. And when you're looking down at the handle, it will tell you it's locked above you, so you don't necessarily see where it says locked. Like the subtitles and that don't always follow your eye line when you're looking down. But there was this door; it wasn't locked, and the reason it wouldn't open was it would only open once I let go of the hammer. And I thought, oh, they don't want you walking around with a hammer. But it is a part of this game, which is you can only use one item at a time. And so one issue I do have with the game, and it's not an issue that's bothered me, but I think it's just something that we mention because people go, why didn't you mention this? Right. Is there is a bit of juggling to do with inventory, and that includes even when you're holding pieces. There was a puzzle I was doing. This isn't spoiler, but you basically got some items that you got to shuffle around. And so what you'd want to do is pick one in one hand, one in the other, and then decide where you want to position them. You can't do that. You have to pick one up, put it over your shoulder to put it in your inventory, and basically place them one at a time. And the way I describe it is it kind of makes you feel like you're playing one-handed the entire game. Yeah. That's the kind of thing it is, which in a way adds to the tension because you want to do things fast. And it's like the fact you have to be meticulous and do things. But the whole sort of issue, like not being able to open a door and being like, why can't I do that? Like I'm holding this and doing that. It's not something that I thought, oh, this is totally taking me out of it completely. But I did find it a bit jarring or a bit confusing, at least at first.
It is
until you realize, okay, this is the rules of engagement.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like where you were using the hammer and holding it out in front of you, I was using the camera as my defense, right? Being like, I'm just going to hold it out. If anything comes at me, I'm just going to take a picture of you, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah. So when I'm holding that, like just gripping the controller so tight, ready to take a picture at any given moment, and then I try to open a door while I'm walking around, I can't do it because I've got the camera out. Listen, I didn't mention that issue specifically, but there are little things that will clue you into the fact that this was not built from the ground up for VR. But there are so many other things that make you go, man, this feels like it was built from the ground up for VR, right? It's almost like 50-50. It does so much VR implementation so well, including the camera, where you take out the camera very simply, right, from over your shoulder with the grip, and then it's never failed me. I've never once done this and then didn't end up with a camera in my hand, right? And then take a picture. Oh no, it happened to you?
Yeah, I got stuck in a spot because I couldn't get my camera out and I needed it in that space. We talked about this, and I have made it through that point.
Good.
But it wasn't without trouble, because I went back in there early this morning, and I guess we can kind of use this to segue into some of the maybe not so great things about the game. It is a little buggy. So I went back to the spot, Brian, and I'm not going to describe it terribly because I don't want to spoil it for people. But I was able to get my camera this time. But when I got it, it was teeny tiny little miniature camera in the palm of my hand. And when I tried to let it go, so it would go back into my inventory, it just floated in the air in front of me. Oh. And I could still use it. I could like trigger on it, and it would take little teeny tiny pictures that I couldn't tell anything about, but I couldn't move it. Like it was just floating in the air in front of me, and I could move it by moving my body to where I wanted it to point. Eventually I was able to grab it again and get it back in my inventory. And then the next time I pulled it out, it worked, and I finally made it through this spot. But while, like you said, some of the VR implementation is very good in this game, some of it's not so great. I didn't find it particularly frustrating, but it definitely was not perfect.
Yeah. No, agreed. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of any other examples to kind of point out so that we can kind of just make sure we hit on everything.
Someone in the chat was just saying the doors are fixed, right? The issues that were mentioned about doors and that in the past, I didn't have any issues. The only issue I had was the first time I was trying to open a door, and it was like, oh, it's because I'm holding something. I put it away, and then and there's actually another bit in the game where you're holding, like, you hold extra items, like a police radio. You've got at one point like a radio,
right.
And I didn't know what button you got to press to pick it up, and I think it's when you put away your other item, it then just appears in your hand. So, like, again, it's that thing of, if you think about this game that you can only do one thing at a time, one item at a time, you'll get through it. But that's it. Yeah.
So with the doors, I did have a few occasions where my hands got stuck in the door.
Okay.
Like, if you try to open them too quickly, then your hand will go through the door and then it will stay there. After a while, you just kind of get used to that and you just open the doors slowly and it's fine. It doesn't happen when you do that. Another one of the big kind of design flaws that I felt in the VR interactions is it isn't always obvious how to interact with things. Like, you can put your hand over something that's interactable and a little icon will pop up over your hand that tells you that, hey, this is something you can interact with, but it's very tiny and you don't always notice it. So there were times where I got stuck and I didn't know what to do. I had an idea what I should do in game, but I didn't know how to trigger it, right? And it was all because I didn't notice that my hand was in the right spot. And it took me going back a few times and just kind of, staring at my hand through space until, okay, here it is.
You weren't playing on hard, were you?
No.
Okay, good. It's been really interesting this past few days because I've talked to people from other VR channels. I've talked to, obviously, AJ and Myles and Wes, and it was sort of interesting to hear. Some people had absolutely zero problems when I was like, oh man, I can't open the drawers and I can't open doors and everything, nothing quite works. Like, it doesn't seem right. And I'm reporting the issues to Perp and they're like issuing, like just patch after patch after patch all weekend long. Some people weren't experiencing that at all, right? And then it's interesting to hear that I was sort of in this weird middle ground where some people had it worse than me and some people didn't have any of the issues. And so I'm just really, really hoping that, like, anything that I didn't experience or I wasn't able to report to Perp, hopefully they're aware of. Because this, I guess everybody was really concerned before this game came out that it was going to be another Vertigo 2 situation, right? The game had been hyped up for so long, it'd been delayed over and over again, and then it was going to come out and there was just going to be so many problems that, like, were, keeping people from enjoying it. I can only report on what happened to me, and I'm really, really happy that, like, when I finished the game, and was like, struggling with like these certain bugs the entire time, they'd issued a few patches while I was playing through it. And I did something I didn't think I was going to do because I was terrified of the fucking game. So the second credits rolled, I started a new game, a new hard mode.
You madman.
Just to see, just to see what the difference was. And also just to see, like, how far can I get in 90 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, because it's a puzzle game. So it took me probably over 8 hours to finish the game. And I'm betting I could probably beat the entire game in about 3 hours on the second try, right? And so there's a part of me that's like, well, it's only going to take 3 hours. I might as well just do it. And when I got back in, everything worked perfectly. And I was like, shit, sorry, more sirens on my end. And so even my experience, because I was playing through a bunch of patches that were getting released, was wildly different. And then finally I was like, well, they fucking nailed it. But there's obviously some things that still need to be fixed that I just didn't personally experience. Here, I'm going to tackle a couple of tips here, guys, and then we'll figure out kind of where we are. We've got LA Hembre D, Cat Allergic Gamecat with the $5 tip. More sirens says, hey cats, I'm sorry I haven't seen your review video, the Patreon video, or Miles's Let's Play on Madison. I just didn't want spoilers and then watch. And then he tipped again the $2 and said, sorry, I meant I'll play then watch. Thank you very much, man. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. And so, I really didn't want to spoil too much in the review. I found it very, very difficult to put the review together personally because, you don't want to like even show off all the environments that you're going to visit. But then I watched the trailer and I was like, this trailer is super spoilery. So I didn't feel so bad about my review.
I will also say, like, in my playthrough, like at the very start of the game, there were a couple of beats that I knew of quite well. And despite that, it was absolutely terrifying when it happens. Like, even though there was a bit and I was like, I know exactly what's coming, you will not be prepared for it. It will absolutely floor you because the mix of the audio and the visuals, you feel present. You feel like you're already there. And Fighting for Light kicks in. It's just absolutely remarkable. And also, there's a lot of beats that you might have seen on trailers. The beat to beat of how this game goes is so fluent that you just don't know when stuff's going to happen. It's just like it's constant misdirection and always, building up your expectations in one way and then sliding something in the other side. It's just very well done. So for those that are worried that I've seen something, is that going to spoil it? Doesn't matter. Even if you had the biggest spoiler, you're still going to be shitting yourself.
Myles, let me ask you this. How much more of Madison do you think you're going to play?
I don't know. The reality is I do want to play more, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the end. Like,
listen, I'm only saying this not because I want you to shit yourself or because I think it's funny when you get scared. Like, I mean, I do. Don't get me wrong, but like this, there's something very special about Madison, and
for sure.
And I thought that I knew it was going to be a game that would probably scare me. I knew it was a game that would probably have some good puzzles. But this game has affected me in a way that I don't know if any VR game prior has. When I say that, like, Luca occasionally speaks up, when I say he occasionally has his own thoughts and his own concerns, there was a part of me that was like, we need to protect this boy. He's in a lot of fucking danger. We need to get him to safety. And the attachment that Madison's able to create between you and this character, despite the fact that you're supposed to be playing as him, was special. And I like genuinely cared about this character by the end of the game. And obviously I won't go into detail about any of the story arcs or how it ends, but it's been living in my head. Like the story, the vibe, everything has been living in my head rent free for like 2 days straight. And just like, I was terrified to go play through it again. And now I want to go play through it again. And there's just something special about this. And I can't quite put my finger on it. But like, I want to make sure, especially when we eventually get around to doing like Game of the Year discussions, when we end up doing the next top 25 list, right? These are things that, like, yes, the first couple hours are scary, and yes, there's some good puzzles in the first couple hours, but like, I feel like until you guys get to the end and experience it the way that I experienced it, I'm not like, oh, you guys have a lesser opinion. That's not fucking what I'm talking about. I want you to have the same feeling that I've got, so that way, there's this extra thing that pushes it above other games when we have that discussion. And I just kind of want you to get to the point where you feel that too, and you understand like why this game is so special. And I just hope that, not putting you on the spot and being like, when are you going to do it? I'm kind of putting you on the spot and saying, I really hope that you do it with, whether you're able to or not.
It's a really good point, Brian. And to be fair, I know bits and pieces of the story, and I know like sort of where it goes in the end. I just don't know how we sort of get there. And from what I've played at the beginning, I'm really invested in this character, and I think it's a really powerful horror story that actually is just so enhanced by the medium of VR. I'm not even going to speak into any specifics, but it is just the fact of like, I mean, we spoke about it in conversation about having an empathy for this character, and like, I know when I hear that the voice on clips and that, it's quite a whiny voice, yeah. And I knew that there were going to be people that go, and actually I had it on my Let's Play. Someone said, I will read the exact comment. They just said, they just said, oh, I can't find it. But they basically just said the protagonist's voice is way too annoying. And that's just a common thing. And I just say hard disagree because they're a young kid.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, as I was doing the live stream, there were some times where I was more whinier than Luca was. So I'm willing to. But I just think it works. So having come out, as soon as I took the headset off, or even as I was playing, I was like, I could keep going. I need to relax my body, as you say, take breaks. I would like to see this to the end. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but I think once I've caught up with my Let's Plays, I've got like 8 to go, then I'll have some space to do it. But I genuinely do want to, because I really appreciate it. And to your point, if we are going to be having discussions of like Game of the Years and stuff, this is a game that I think is my kind of game, not just because of sort of the subject matter and the fact that my favorite movies are ones that are about like the human condition and what's it to be human, and this delves into that in many, many ways. And so yeah, my intention is to keep going. My body is saying fuck no.
Wes, what are your do you have plans to finish this? I know that I know that you don't get to finish a lot of games these days, but do you have any plans to get around to it?
I couldn't stop if I wanted to. We're covering this game this Saturday on Strangers in the Night. I will have finished this game by then.
Amazing.
I've played it every night since I started, and I'll be playing it again tonight and tomorrow night and the following night. Haven't been sleeping a whole lot, but we're at least getting 90 minutes of this in a day. So by the time Saturday night rolls around, we will definitely have finished this, and I'll have my full thoughts in review on that episode, and then Eric and Roots will have played it by then as well, and it'll be interesting to hear their take on it.
Markio, the Sleepless Night Underground Gamecat in the chat says, I thought Madison had an upgrade path for previous owners. It's supposed to be like 20% off if you already own it on PS4 or PS5 digitally.
Before a certain date.
Right, if you bought it before, what was it, April 1st or something? Just check Perp Socials for that. And the other thing is like I have no idea if that's just supposed to be instant or if it's one of those things where like you have to show them proof of purchase. I don't fucking know how it would work. But yeah, check out Perp Socials and get in touch with them if you have any questions about that. Flippy Nuggets, welcome to Level 1 membership. Appreciate your support. Ace Gamer, the Game Cat, with a $13.37 says, both Patreons, Without Parole and Underground, blew up my phone at the exact same time today for the Madison reviews. Did you guys plan this? Well played if so, and thank you either way. I think we were all just kind of like getting our shit ready for embargo lifting. So I think at like noon Eastern, I just wanted to make sure that I'd been promising you guys Patreon content for a while. And you know, I tried to record my first impressions of Happy Funland, and I was so irritated playing that, and Twilight Zone. I was so irritated playing that. And because don't forget, this was all like right around when I was starting to get very, very burnt out and needed a break. But also because those games needed fucking work at launch. And so I was irritated anyway. And I tried to record my first impressions of those, and it just went horribly wrong. But I knew Madison was going to be something that you guys would want to see my first impressions of. So I made sure I got my first 90 minutes of Madison up on Patreon. I'm going to make sure that anytime another horror game comes out, or maybe even just any big exciting game comes out, you'll get my first hour or 90 minutes over there on Patreon. I'm not a big fan of doing live streams. I want to make sure that like I'm giving them to the people that actually care, and I appreciate all the support for that. Myles, by the way, Myles, you fucking killed it today. I always love the heart rate monitor in your horror live streams. Today was great. It was great watching your heart rate go all over the place. Your reactions were obviously very genuine, and you jumped. I mean, it was some classic Myles Dyer live. It was good stuff, man. So congratulations on getting through it as much as you did.
I've learned. I was wondering if I was going to be swearing as much as I did back in the Village days, and I've got that to a T now. I think Jesus Christ is my go-to phrase, which is always good when you're dealing with evil. You just want to always use the power of Christ to help you through those moments. But yeah, no, it's good. And also, like when I was looking at the Madison, like the science experiment that was done, and they have a table of like heart rate and where it peaks. I think mine peaked 1 beat per minute more than what theirs recording or average recording, which
Wow,
I
so
think
pretty
is
accurate then.
Yeah, 132. I think 132. I was 133. Someone said I got to 140, but I didn't see that. But dude, when I do horror live streams, as soon as they start, my heart rate's already over 100, and it's because I'm racing around panicking to get stuff ready. And they're like, "Hi, I'm going to do this horror game," and people are like, "Myles, your heart rate is already like way up, too high." But yeah, no, I appreciate that. It was a big deal for me, and again, I was surprised how far I got in it. Yeah.
The chat was very helpful too. I tried to be helpful when I could without being, just spoiling shit. But I was actually surprised. I checked in on you not too long before you finished, and you were way further than I expected you to get. So I was trying to do everything I possibly could without a walkthrough, right? And just kind of beat my head against the wall as frequently as possible, playing it by myself, pretending it was a brand new game, pretending there was no walkthroughs or FAQs out there. And man, like, I'd still used a walkthrough when I was like, I just need to fucking make some progress again because the embargo is coming up. But again, I think if people play this totally straight and don't get any help from anybody, I was looking at HLTB.com and they were like 6.5 hours. I'm like, I don't believe that. Like,
I do think it's like when I did the Red Matter for the first time, I did it in like 90 minutes. It's just sometimes when you get to puzzles, the order that you do things, you just happen to stumble on your luck.
Yep.
And so the preview section of the game that people had early, I think it can take up to 90 minutes to do. And I'm speaking very overly around it, not to spoil anyone, but anyone that has seen those previews, I think it's about it can take an hour to 90 minutes to get there. I think I got there in about just under an hour, and I did get lucky with a lot of it. And funny enough, the bit that I would have taken a lot longer, but I was walking around the house looking for shit, and then I heard you say something, "Oh, don't you want to go to so-and-so?" And I was going to go there, but I just assumed, oh, that's... because I found an item, I thought, oh, I need to now go back and find out where that goes. No, I needed to just continue and I would have got to where I needed to go next. So sometimes you can double guess yourself and, talk yourself out of the right way to go. So yeah, but follow your instincts, guys, when you're playing this game.
Madman in Black didn't leave a message, but left a 20 quid donation. Thank you so much, Madman in Black. It's always good to see you, buddy. It follows it up with 10 more pounds, quid,
pounds, yeah.
I don't know. He says the poll should have been pizza or more pizza. You decide. I'm definitely liking that.
I had pizza afterwards. I needed it. Yeah, that was my treat.
Awesome. Professor Lilith with the $5 tip reminds us, like we did at the beginning of the show, that the Sunday multiplayer survey is posted. Choose Gran Turismo, Among Us, or Walkabout Mini Golf. I'll close the poll at 4 p.m. Eastern on Friday. So yeah, guys, I've been doing my absolute best to have, we'll be announcing the polls in case you weren't aware of them on GamesCast every Wednesday. And then I'm doing my best to have PSVR this week up before I go to bed Friday night, Saturday morning. And then that's when the poll has been closed and decided upon. More sirens on my end. And so I mean, if you're not part of the Discord or if you're not engaged on Discord, then we'll do our best to make sure that you stay updated on what games we're playing every Sunday. Oop, gotta like that. Atomic Teapot, the Gamecat, which is a great fucking name, with the Australian $5 tip, says, surely a lesson to only release games when they're ready. Delays suck, but a broken launch must hurt the developers overall. Yeah, man. I mean, think of all the games that have come out kind of broken or busted or janky or have issues. And I mean, who the fuck has time to, we're getting this constant flood of new VR games, new PSVR2 games. And there's just no time to go back and investigate, after the announcement, this shit's been fixed. Well, cool. We're more than happy to talk about that on GamesCast, but who has time to go back and actually check to see if all this shit has actually been fixed, right? No one's got time to go back and do a whole new review or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, this has to be hurting developers. At a certain point, people get fed up and get tired. And I mean, let's hope that everyone's learned their lessons. Bonjour Miller with the $2 tip says, when, if ever, should Jank deduct review points? My feeling is very simple, is when it more sirens, when it affects the experience. Right, when it affects the experience, when you walk away from Madison, do you remember only the jank, or do you remember the great puzzles and the story and the scares and everything we were talking about, Luca, or am I remembering? Oh man, I fucking couldn't open that door. It was a janky fucking handle, and that's not what I thought about. Unfortunately, when I walked away from Happy Funland, there's always going to be one or two games that divide us, Wes. When I walked away from Happy Funland, all I could think about was click turning and the terrible combat and how it got in the way of me enjoying everything else that game had to offer, to the point where I didn't enjoy everything that game has to offer. And so I think it's going to be a very personal thing, and it's going to be a very personal thing game to game. So it's not a good answer, Bonjour Miller, but that's the only answer I have.
I think it's the perfect answer. I agree with you completely. It's when it takes away from the game significantly for you. And that is going to be a personal thing. If you're really into a game and the environment and what's going on, you're going to be more likely to look around that sort of thing. But when it's so egregious that it's pulling you out of the experience and really breaking your immersion, then that's when it should deduct from the score. It just so happens that while there is jank in this game, I've never really thought about it too much. Like I was always still kind of hyper aware of my surroundings and what was happening in the game. It's like when is it appropriate for someone to be talking on their phone in a movie theater? Well, it depends on how loud they're talking, how much you notice it, right?
The answer's never. Fuck those people. like really, I'm going to come back there and tear your goddamn fucking head off. Dude, nothing, like listen, some people think I'm like laid back and chill, and those people have never met me. Right, because I am so irritable all of the time. If I'm in a movie theater and you're like sitting there crinkling some fucking candy trying to get it open, and I'm trying to watch a movie, like, I hate you. I do. I hate you. And if you're talking to your friends, I hate you more. And if you even fucking look at your phone and light up the entire movie theater with your screen, I am going to kill you. Okay? We all paid good money to be there, and you're ruining it for everybody. Go fuck yourselves. I'm done. I swear.
I agree with most of that. I don't appreciate people who are inconsiderate of others, but that really wasn't the point I was trying to
make. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. I definitely derailed that one. Oh man. Madison in Black with another 10 quid says jank isn't an issue if you enjoy the game. IMO. Gonna like it. We should all.
Well, I mean, it depends, because the question kind of was, when should it retract from the score? And I could see jank being a problem enough to retract from the score while you're still enjoying the game. But there are special cases where, like, even though the jank's there, the game is so immersive that it doesn't really kind of pull you out of it. You kind of get used to it, and it becomes like muscle memory after a few minutes, how to kind of work around that stuff so that it doesn't happen, right? You don't think about it after a little while. You just kind of open the doors slowly so your hands won't clip through them. You don't think, okay, now I'm going to open this door slowly. You just kind of start doing it. So yeah.
Darkwing Chuck in the chat says, I don't even like movie theaters. There's always people making noise, talking, and walking around. Dude, I will tell you that the pandemic kind of ruined it for me, right? Because it was so much for me to get out of my apartment and actually go and convince myself to go to a movie theater and sit there and pay the money and just sit around strangers and whatever. It's a great experience, right? You get this massive screen, great sound, whatever. And you know, especially if it's a horror movie and you're around strangers and it's like, so you don't feel like you're in your comfort zone, it can be extra scary, right? However, during the pandemic, they said, well, we're just going to start making sure that most movies that are in the theater are also available for you to rent or buy from home. And man, oh man, when they were first like, oh, $30 to buy it at home and $20 to rent it at home, I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. And then I realized if I took a date to the movie theater, I'd be well over $30, and I wouldn't be able to come home with that movie. I wouldn't own it. And I was like, it didn't take too long for me to rationalize my way into buying movies for $30 that were in theaters. I don't do it often, but I fucking do it, and I enjoyed the experience far more at home by myself or with a date.
And movie theater prices are always our go-to justification for game prices, VR games. So even if a VR game's like 5 hours and it's like $30, if it's a good game, you know, you would pay $15 to go see a 90-minute movie, right? That's not nearly as immersive or as fun. So yeah, I don't know how that kind of ties in there, but just a thought.
All right, a couple of news stories that we want to hit on before we wrap up the show. Puzzling Places is getting an update on PSVR2 tomorrow. I got to tell you guys, I was a little worried this update wasn't coming because it came, I believe, to Quest first, and then they were kind of silent about the PSVR2 version. This is the multiplayer update and the increased resolution update. I never thought I would be so excited to get into VR and solve a 400-piece puzzle with a friend, but god damn, I can't wait to do it. Am I alone on this?
No, I've been really looking forward to this. I was gutted when it was announced and it was like, oh, it's not for PSVR 2. A close friend of mine actually texted me this news after I finished my Let's Play saying, this is out tomorrow. And I was like, what better post-Madison VR experience than Puzzling Places multiplayer?
Right.
That's going to be a nice relaxing piece. No, I'm really happy for that. And the increased resolution, I mean, the game looks great as it is. I can't wait to see how it's going to look now. And I still haven't played the underwater levels.
Same.
They're out, aren't they?
It's one. This I believe this is the first time they've sold us a single puzzle. However, this underwater puzzle that I think AJ played already and was recommending me. He's like, you got to check this out. Now you guys know AJ is not. Like he gave, I think he gave me a lot of shit when I gave Puzzling Places a 9 out of 10. And I think this was the first time he's been really impressed by Puzzling Places. This has premium audio, meaning it's very specific to this puzzle, and animation, which is something that people have been wanting in Puzzling Places. I don't know if this is the first one that had it, but I remember putting those first ones together and then being like, oh yeah, it would be really cool if once you put it all together, like everything animated and kind of came to life. Can only imagine how much extra work that is. But like, you know, Summer Dive looks fantastic. I can't wait to see it in VR. So I hope it's worth the price of admission for that.
Yeah, I mean, they have had puzzles in the past that have some movement. I remember doing a temple and there are people walking inside, but this just seems like the next evolution of this, where it's just even more fluent. Like, this is an example of a VR property that is gonna just have a very, very long and fruitful life because its core gameplay is excellent. The sky's the limit with all the different intellectual properties they can do for this. You know, they can do famous locations, they could do locations from famous computer games, and it's kind of like the model.
Now I want a Rapture puzzle,
or the Madison house,
or the Madison house
together. yeah. But have you never done the Dracula Puzzling Places? I
didn't do that one. Nope.
Do it. It's got a really cool, like, there's a little thing in there that they do, and I'm just like, that's a really nice touch. Puzzling Places are actually a game that I think is a top 25 contender. After our previous conversation, I was like, yeah, this game deserves to rank a lot higher. Like, this is a game that whenever I show people new to VR, I mean, my dad even uttered the words at Christmas, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, this is something you can't do in real life. Like, this is something that VR enhances an experience that you would do with, you know, regular puzzle making. So yeah. Well,
I will say I fell off of Puzzling Places. I didn't have time to keep, you know, like they were so religious about getting their DLC out constantly. It's like every single month, it's like, boom, here's another pack, here's another pack, here's another pack. They were so good about it that like it was too much for me. Couldn't keep up with it. And on top of that, like, you know, I think I was kind of looking for something like this, something that was dramatically different. And I would almost prefer that they do one of these a month rather than a pack every month, right? Because I'd rather have they do one with, like, you know, special audio, its own soundtrack, its own animation, right? And I'd spend a couple bucks on something that's premium, that's been custom designed for us, rather than like, oh, here's just some more locations around the world, you know? So, I haven't heard Wes chime in about Puzzling Places yet. I'm sensing a complete lack of interest.
Don't care.
Perfect. Well, how do you Do you care about this, Wes? The other news story that I really want to talk to you guys about was that, dude, I've been looking forward to and hoping that Arcade Paradise would be coming to PSVR2, and then the publisher, Wired Productions, actually tweeted. They were talking about the Quest release, and then they were saying, oh, and also PSVR2 version coming later this summer. And then they deleted their tweet like the next day. Wes, are you familiar with Arcade Paradise? I've only become recently familiar with it because I watched an episode of Game Grumps where they were playing the flat screen version. Are you familiar with this game?
I'm very familiar with this game. This is a client at Impact Reality. I've been very much handling the promotion of this game for about 6 months.
Wes, did you delete the tweet?
Yeah. Well,
No,
post it.
no, I didn't. I didn't delete that tweet. I didn't know about that tweet. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to continue on that line of questioning then.
I'll just say this. I'll say this. We can't wait to share more news in the coming weeks and months about other platforms. But it's safe to say we're excited to bring our virtual rags to Arcade Rich's game to as many players as possible.
That's great.
I'm just here talking about this news story to convince everybody in the chat that the fact that I am surrounded currently by Impact Reality employees is not going to change the shit we cover on this show. If we hear a leak, we're going to fucking cover it, whether you guys like it or not.
And it's interesting. It's an interesting leak.
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk with you about the game. It did just launch this past week and getting overwhelmingly positive reviews on MetaQuest.
Well, let's bring it on, man. Quest 3 Without Parole. Let's talk about it.
There you go. It's a lot management sim that it's story driven. It puts you in the role of a young person whose father is trying to teach them some responsibility by letting them manage the laundromat. As you kind of go through your first day, you realize that there's a few arcade machines stowed away in the back, and that inspires you to do well in business so as to expand. Only while your father's thinking that you're expanding the laundromat part of the business, what you're actually doing is secretly building an arcade in the back. And it features nearly 40 different playable arcade cabinets, each with their own like individual leaderboards that span across, the entire platform. Everyone has an individual leaderboard for each of these cabinets. And then there's about 12 or so of these that were specifically built for VR, that aren't available in the very popular flat version of Arcade Paradise. And on top of all that, on MetaQuest 3, you can use the full color high definition pass through to use mixed reality and put these arcade cabinets right in your home. So.
Super cool.
Can't wait for the PSVR 2 version, seemingly being released later this summer. Yeah, no, I mean, dude, it looked like a lot of fun doing laundry for people and make a few extra bucks and cleaning the place up, picking up all the trash, peeling gum off the floor. I mean, it's cleaning toilets. It's just like it's the kind of life simulator stuff that I'm like, this seems dumb. But when it all results in your ability to buy more and more and more arcade machines and start filling up the place and kind of crafting it the way that you want to, and a lot of these arcade machines seem to be kind of takeoffs of classic arcade games. There's ones that look like Tetris, Pong, the whole thing. So I'm really curious to see like what different, what the other types of arcade machines, what the possibilities are. So don't tell Wired we told you this, but all we're doing is repeating their tweet.
Yeah, I know.
That's it. Okay, we're getting just about to the end of the show. We're going to be wrapping things up. Let's knock out a couple more tips though. We got one from Rad Boy here. Oh, by the way, yeah, Rad Boy was the one that wanted us to do this poll. Let's check in on the poll, you guys. I'm gonna close the poll.
You would love us to check in on the poll, Brian.
Mm-hmm. I do. I do.
Yes.
All right, here is the results of the poll. Are you buying Madison VR? 71% of you, there's over 200 people voted. 71% said yes. 22% of you, so the majority of the no's, said nope, too scary. And only 6% of you said no, I don't like puzzles. I think it's very, very seldom we see a game with this much universal interest. Very cool.
143 people that are buying this tomorrow.
Not too shabby. Or tonight, or already, because it's already seemingly out in some regions.
Oh,
very
awesome.
cool.
I'm always cautious when it comes to like strong recommendations, but I feel that if you are someone that has any slight interest in Madison to any degree, I think get this game. Just get in the headset to really experience it. Like, it's just how it makes you feel present, and that is just it's just excellent. And I think it's just like with a lot of VR, experience it to believe it, but just give this a go. If they make
Photo Nutter is downloading it now.
All right.
All right, there we go.
Rad Boy with the $2 tip says, it's my last $2, but I love you guys. Have a great day. Oh,
No,
I told you before.
Yeah.
Listen, it's like you're really your last $2. I kind of want to give it back to you. Like I'll be fine. I'm way more concerned about you. Darth Vader the Gamecat with a $10 tip says, hey everyone. Hey Vader. First off, I'm so glad you're all back. That was last week then, but whatever. Secondly, more sirens on my end. Totally off topic, but I've been really excited for Stride Fates. Parkour and combat. Closest thing to Dying Light 2 we'll probably ever get. Wow. I don't know about ever get, but I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for Stride Fates. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very good.
Like we talk about it every episode.
Fans of action parkour should be excited for it. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Oh, I should like that as well. Ali Henry D. Catalargic Gamecat with a $2 tip says Wes didn't delete the tweet. It always Myles. Oh yeah, now you've got a flunky you can blame things on. Wasn't you? It was Myles.
Yeah, that's totally.
That's why they employed me, was just to divert attention from this one thing. Yeah.
All right. And then the very, very last news story before we call it quits, you guys, is that astute game cats who pay attention to the PSVR2 section of the PlayStation Store even more than I do notice that Island Time VR has shown up on the PSVR2 section of the store. Listen, this is a flight school game. Can I fucking bring up here it is. I was like, can I find the trailer? Flight school game. The first game they came out with on PSVR2 was fucking Manifest 99. But more of a interactive experience. And then a short while later, they came out with this, which was definitely more of a game, kind of like a survival arcade game. It's like, how long can you survive? This was on PSVR 1, and it was one of the few games that I just would not let me defend the Move controllers any longer. With light tracking, these guys didn't give us any turn options, and so you're breaking crates open and whatever, and you're trying to start a fire to keep yourself warm, keep yourself from dying, and because of the tracking of the Move controllers, you have to turn around so frequently and block the light. You occlude it from the camera. Dude, I was setting my whole fucking island on fire every 5 minutes, right? The game was, I wouldn't say it's broken, but it was really difficult to play with the Move controllers. And so there's a little part of me that's like, I'm sure most people out there are like, seriously, Island Time? Who the fuck cares? But there's a part of me that's like, oh, I finally get to play this game properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you?
And it's a platinum trophy, so.
Did you get the platinum?
I did.
You got the platinum on Island Time? Was it difficult? I never got it.
Yeah, the final one of lasting the ridiculous amount of time, it was you just had to keep doing it until you finally just got lucky with it. I remember it was very frustrating, but yeah.
Now, the big thing about this game was that, I say the big thing, but I don't know if that's a big thing. I was a big Podcast Beyond fan, big Kind of Funny fan at the time, and Greg Miller is the voice of Carl the Crab. Now, since this game's come out, Greg Miller is not what I would call the biggest fan of VR.
So it could change. This could change it.
I would
become
like
a massive fan again.
I would like to start a petition to remove Greg Miller's voiceovers
And replace him with you.
and replace them with my voiceovers.
Brian the Crab.
Yep. Dear Flight School Games. if we could make this a possibility, I feel like it's the only reasonable way forward. I don't know. Let me guess, Wes. No interest whatsoever.
Not really. I didn't play it to begin with. I did play Manifest 99. I thought it was okay, but didn't really have much interest in this cartoony survival game.
Totally understandable. This was a very small game, but it was fun. I think it had a lot of character, it had a lot of charm. $15 isn't the end of the world, but I do hope. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you carry on.
I was going to say, I just hope that the PSVR2 improvements are everything we want them to be, right? Because it could use a lot of PSVR2 improvements.
Wouldn't it be funny if there was no stick turning in it? That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Well,
but it would actually be kind of okay, right? Because this isn't the kind of game where you're. It's not going to fuck up the tracking when we turn around now. Although still, for people like me with a very, very small play space, I will turn around, reach my hands out, and suddenly both hands will, fly into a bookshelf when I'm trying to start a fire, and then my whole island will be on fire all over again, but for different reasons this time. So, yeah.
Cool. I was just going to throw into the mix before we wrap up another update. So obviously, I've been working with Rapid Eye Movers the last few months. That came to an end yesterday with putting out an update that has released today. Time attack mode. It comes with all these quality of life improvements, including like leaderboard refreshes, accessibility features. But the time attack update, it's this like 2-minute level. So you have 2 minutes and you just got to get as many blocks as you can. And there's a leaderboard. And actually, I think it's one of the best modes the game has had. It was originally made for the Professional Squash Association when we're going to all these live events, but it was like that popular. They thought, right, let's actually take this into the game. And I just recommend if you have C Smash, free update, get in it, see how well you do on the leaderboards. It's really good fun.
And with that,
and it's just nice that they keep adding to it.
Any more updates about C Smash ever again on Gamescast Live? I'm just kidding. I think as soon as they get crossplay up and running, there'll be a lot more renewed interest in this game.
It was the most difficult part of like working on stuff with them, and they understand it as well with the community. Is like you can do all the Discord stuff, you can do C Smash Saturdays, but people keep just saying like, when is crossplay? And not only that, if you do like C Smash Saturday and you do quick play to just match up with someone, if you're in a different region, you're geo-locked. The only way you'll be able to play is if we invite each other. And it is because the fast paces of the game, there's a lot of lag issues. But I do believe they're looking into like making it at least an option. But in this day and age, with the competitive nature of VR, if you're doing a multiplayer game, and this is not saying you just do it, it takes development and that, but crossplay is just absolutely essential if you want any chance of having, especially a concurrent player base.
But I think you can get away with it on Quest currently, right? You can get away with it being like, because the Quest 2 and Quest 3 obviously are going to be crossplay with each other, and there's millions of those headsets out there. But yeah, if you're bringing the game to PSVR 2, you need to kind of tap into that pool of users, because I don't think we have enough people over here to run the fort.
And I just remember when Knock added crossplay and did is it Quest Plus or whatever it was they added to it, and then there was a massive influx of players on Knock, and it just shows the benefit. And Among Us was crossplay at launch. It's a big investment, but it's just if you want multiplayer to really be a predominant part of your offering, then you need that to be the case.
Listen, I don't like the conversation that's happening here in the chat. How dare you call Galaxy Kart my guilty pleasure? Galaxy Kart is just a pleasure. There is no guilt surrounding it whatsoever, Tiff. How dare you? That's it. All right, you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Make sure that you subscribe to the Wes over at Virtual Strangers and Myles over at youtube.com/Myles. Click the link in the description below and subscribe, share the love. Don't forget, AJ is also on this show because, of course, it is his channel. So subscribe to him as well. And, he'll be on the next episode because that's how the rotation is going to work. It's going to be great. I had this all
massive respect for Wes doing this entire episode sat in that living room. I mean, Jesus Christ. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I wish you were sitting in that chair. Like the chair surrounded by candles.
Anywhere near that chair. That's like the most terrifying chair I've ever seen.
Amazing. Yeah, sorry. I got my run of show all fucked up, you guys. We're not changing all that much around here, but I still but I still have all sorts of stuff fucked up and still getting used to the new format. So you know what that means, guys? It's time for fucking 20 questions. We're done with all the news stories. It's time to play a game. And Wes, you're the one choosing this week. Do you have a game picked out?
Indeed, I do.
Awesome. Well, that means Myles and I and everybody out there, we only have 6 minutes and 20 yes or no questions to figure out what PSVR 1 or PSVR 2 game Wes Dillon is thinking of. So please, for the love of all things holy, make sure you help us out. Suggest good questions for us to ask Wes in the chat, and based on the answers he gives us, suggest good games that might be the answer. Myles, are you ready?
No, but let's do it.
Never ready. On your mark. Get Des. Go. Did this come out?
Multiplayer.
Here you start.
This is the multiplayer.
There it is.
No.
No.
Why do you?
What's
with the confused face?
I know you get a little weird about your definition of multiplayer sometimes. So I just wanted to make sure in my own mind that there was nothing in this that could be considered any sort of multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, I never consider like leaderboards multiplayer.
Shared leaderboards multiplayer.
Actual co-op, PvP. Yeah. Did this come out on PSVR 1?
It did.
Is it arcadey?
I wouldn't. I mean, there might be some arcadey aspects to it, but I would not consider this to be an arcadey game at all.
Did this developer make more than just this game for PSVR 1? Did they make other PSVR 1 games?
Oh.
All right, you had to think about it, Myles. That means it's not Servios.
Yeah.
Also not Arvory.
Oh, this is a difficult question, actually.
Also not Flight School.
Skydance.
Because we just talked about it. Also not Sky. We're eliminating all sorts of games based on his slow response.
I can't think of any other ones that they've done.
Okay.
I'm going to say no
bluff.
there.
Or it's a really good bluff. And it is a service game.
I've been known to do that for no time.
Do you shoot weapons in this game?
You do. That's 5.
Okay. I'm going to go to the chat here. Looper is asking if it's also on PSVR 2.
It is not.
No, we're fucked, Myles.
Yeah. Have they gone for realism with this?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So a realistic looking
GOTY
PSVR 1 game that didn't come to PSVR 2 where you shoot weapons. Is this based on...
Did you ask Brian if they'd made other PSVR games?
Yes, and he said he doesn't think so.
That's specifically what he asked. Is it
exactly. So it could be PSVR 2 they've done.
Would you call this a would you call this a first-person shooter? Like, would that be the overarching genre?
Yeah, technically, yes.
Okay.
Trying to remember all my shooting games from PSVR.
Ooh, Chaos is asking if you use the aim controller. I think that's a good
That's a
direction
great
to go
one.
in. Yeah,
Let's go with that.
Does it use the aim controller, Wes?
No aim controller here.
Oh, it's a piece of shit game. I see.
Can you dual wield weapons in this?
No, that's 10.
All right, so that makes it's not Rush of Blood. Did this come out in the first 2 years of PSVR 1's lifespan?
It did.
Whoa.
Oh man. I'm wondering, has it got horror elements to it?
It does.
So
Okay.
Killing Floor. I was thinking. I don't know if it.
Horror elements. Did
Oh,
not
no.
come to PSVR 2. It's got first-person shooter elements where you shoot weapons, realistic graphics, no multiplayer, not arcadey, no aim control. Is this a game that would be show up in our top 25 lists? Like, is it that caliber of game?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, Killing Floor is multiplayer. Yeah.
Do you think you don't think you could be doing an RE7 on us, do you? Who said Gun Club in the chat? Steve, the Binary Mill put out way too many PSVR 1 games, and I think Wes would know that. I can't think of any other Capcom PSVR 1 games.
Was it originally a flat screen game?
Wait. Don't answer that. Can you... Sorry to hijack your question. Can you also play this on the flat screen?
Yes.
All right. I only did that because it came out simultaneously on PSVR. Is this is this made by Capcom?
It is.
Ah, dude. He made it difficult by making it easy. Is it Resident Evil 7?
It is indeed Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Well done, gents.
Excellent.
Amazing. I can't find a Resident Evil 7 trailer for some reason to show on the screen. Here's the Not a Hero DLC trailer. But we never actually answered the title of the video, of this video right here. The literal title of the video and what it says in the thumbnail is Madison Scarier than RE7. And
Tune in next time, Gamecats.
right. I mean, obviously, right? Because you guys have explained how far into the game you've made it and all of that. And so I think it'd be really, really hard to come up with an actual answer based on what you've played so far. So I do want to throw this out there, and please, feel free to interject. Whereas Resident Evil 7 was terrifying for the first couple areas. I think the Jack area, the Marguerite area, those were terrifying. And by the time you get to Lucas, it started to chill out a little bit. The whole game was scary, but you got very, very comfortable with what the game was throwing at you. Like, it wasn't doing a whole lot different in terms of the horror stuff. There were certainly different puzzles and all that. And I feel like by the end of the game, I was fairly comfortable with what they were doing, despite the fact that it was still pretty scary. And so with Madison, I think that it starts scary and somehow just keeps ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And so I do think, even though I've wrestled with this question for a couple days now, I do think it is scarier than Resident Evil 7, or at least on par with Resident Evil 7. And it's a tough question to answer, though.
It's the best example of pure horror game that we have in VR. We've had other examples of this type of game. Like I would say that The Exorcist Legion VR and Paranormal Activity, that they attempt this type of horror, and those are very good games. This is the first great VR game that has done that type of horror. And it is precisely for the reason that you say. It's constantly scary the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing about the reason Village scared me as much as it did is it was one of my first PSVR2 experiences. And RE7, was early VR experience with veteran VR players now. And I've definitely toughened up with horror games. And the fact that this game still makes me feel the way I do would suggest that it has the edge. And especially knowing that I haven't even got to the really bad stuff yet. But the thing with Madison is it just, the problem with a lot of horror movies is they always have a great opening act. And then it just kind of peters off by the end, and you're like, I'm not sure that was very satisfying. My feeling, and also knowing where it goes in the end, it's like it's just going to keep going and going with an awesome finale. So, it kind of does all the good stuff that horror does, and then also it outdoes a lot of stuff that horror often does badly.
Steve Irie in the chat says, when you get a gun in VR, you feel safer. And that is definitely true. I'd be curious to know how much of my fear of Resident Evil 7 was because PSVR 1, my first VR headset, had only come out 3 months prior, right? So it was still all new and shock and awe and be like, oh my God, everything's amazing in VR, right? And then here's something that for the first time looks actually, attempts photorealism despite the low resolution it launched at. And it was something. Because of when it came out, I think it was more impactful. I don't think it's a bad game by any stretch. I think it's a phenomenal game. It's still one of my favorite games on the platform. But I do think that if we had been playing PSVR 1 for 3 or 4 years before it came out, I don't know if it would have been quite as impactful, or at least quite as scary. I think we're all very comfortable with PSVR 2 now and what it's capable of. And Madison somehow pushed the limits of that, even though we've been playing on this headset for over a year now. So I think that also comes into play, and I think it's something to be aware of when answering the question.
I need to make a demo. Remember how scary the kitchen demo was?
Yeah.
And how it immediately showed you what VR was going to be able to do for horror games?
Yep.
But yeah, I guess if they made a separate thing, the concern with doing a demo for something like Madison is I think the kitchen was like, oh, that was fun and that was spooky. The concern with Madison is if they did a demo, a lot of people would play and go, there's no fucking way I'm doing more of this.
That's a good point.
I totally agree with that. Looper, the Underground Gamecat, by the way, the keeper of 20 questions, says this is the first time Resident Evil 7 has been picked for 20 questions, which I can't even fucking believe. He says,
the first time.
Yep. He says, but on November 22nd, 2021, guest host John Hibbins, the Windlands developer, he was on the show and he picked the kitchen demo. Brian and AJ guessed it in 14 questions. This is some fucking great fucking trivia, Looper. Thank you so much for keeping records of all of this and keeping us informed when we do this. I would have never remembered. I barely remembered John Hibbins being on the show, and I definitely would not have remembered what game he chose as the 20 questions game. That is phenomenal. I love it.
Excellent.
Bonjour Milo with the $2 tip says, is Madison scary and fun, or is scary the fun? Oh my God, there's so many interesting. I don't even know.
I mean,
I'd say both. If you like puzzle games, this is a solid puzzle game with the horror stuff all stripped away from it.
I always end my live streams with the question for gameplay, did I have fun? And the answer was no. But the thing with horror games for me is, in hindsight, I'm glad I experienced it. It's so intense. I couldn't really use the word fun, but I was engaged. It's one of the most engaging VR experiences I've ever had. So if it's not, you're going to use the word fun in terms of engagement as a medium, it's absolutely. And I look back quite fondly on it, even though at the time I wanted to get the fuck out.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't think fun's the right word. I kind of feel a little bit gone home-ish having finished Madison. Gone Home was not a fun game. It was just a interesting and creepy game, and slowly kind of uncovering things, and then when you get to the end of it and you understand the full story, it sticks with you. And that's sort of the feeling I have. It's very memorable. I don't know if fun's the right word. But you know what? I go to horror movies to be scared, and I consider that fun. I played Madison and I got the shit scared out of me, and that was really fun. So for me personally, fun. Scary is the fun, but there's definitely more to Madison than meets the eye. And so I think it's fun. I think the puzzles are really clever as well. So like don't discount it just because we spent all day talking about how scary it is. Don't discount the other things that make this game really special. All right. I have no fucking idea where we are in the show. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I already tried to end the show once long before we were supposed to, but don't forget to subscribe to Wes at Virtual Strangers and Myles at youtube.com/Myles. Make sure you subscribe to AJ while you're at it. Pretend I didn't say all this before and just we'll run with it. But thank you everybody who supports the channel. And finally, I was able to get you guys some Patreon and YouTube membership content. I really am happy to have done that. And I can't wait to bring you more of that. It's going to be great. I promise. I can't promise anything, but I'll do my best. Thanks everybody who supports the channel financially on both platforms, by tipping during the show, by hanging out here, entertaining us while we try to entertain you. And of course, everybody who sits back and watches the show and doesn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there and we love you just as much. Here it is, your clip of the week. Thanks, Ace Gamer, for submitting that. Remember, you guys can submit your clips of the week on Discord. We have a clip of the week channel. Just upload your videos over there, and if it's funny or interesting or weird or cool.
Basically, I didn't even know ambulance chasing was a thing on GT7. I didn't know that you could play it. Has ambulances been added?
Dude,
is that?
Yeah, I do remember when they added it and you could unlock it. I just didn't know they like. I guess I didn't really process it till you asked me that question. He must have been in a multiplayer race with a bunch of people who had all unlocked the ambulances.
Yeah.
Right. And just been playing that way. But it's just such a funny visual, man. That was so good. He's doing the Austin Powers thing where he's like moving a little bit forward and a little bit back, just making enough room for the ambulances to go by. Dude, phenomenal. Make sure you submit your clips of the week over on Discord. Who's interested in seeing what happened this week in Without Parole history? And I got to be honest, I have no idea what happened this week in Without Parole history. I got to scroll all the way back through some thumbnails here. So let's see what we got. Let's see what our options are. We can do. All right. I just have no idea. I'm just rolling the dice. This is what happened. January, March, May 5th. 2021. These are some dark days. Let's see how it goes. Wow. Yep. Dark days. All right. The headline was, can PSVR2 push VR into the mainstream?
Oh, totally. It's totally going to do that.
I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I mean, we're a mere 2 years away from finding out.
And Half-Life Alex, man, you know?
Oh my God. Right, of all things, he uses the thumbnail. I love it.
Yeah.
So good. No, but listen, I still have, you know, I kind of joke around when people are asking about, you know, removing PSVR2 from the Twitter handle and from the channel name. And, you know, I've got a lot of funny answers to give you. But the truth is like, I still 100% have a lot of faith in PSVR2. And I don't think Sony's lost interest or is going to discontinue or is going to stop supporting it. You know, we've heard all reports from people who claim they know what's going on, and it's just it's just not true. I mean, I just don't. I'm so surprised when I hear developers out there acting like children and reporting on things like it's actually news when it's clearly not. It all seems very childish to me, and I have a lot of faith in Sony to keep supporting this. And I mean, I don't know. Like, is it maybe I'm just overly optimistic?
And it depends on, because Jim Ryan's launching his own headset, isn't he now? To compete the Jim v Ryan headset. Yeah.
I'm so happy now that when you're on the show, Myles, I have someone else who can roll their eyes at you simultaneously with me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But no, this has been an interesting question. Like leading up to the launch of PSVR 2, I was definitely in the state of mind where I was like, oh my God, we're going to have like PlayStation 5 quality games in VR, which is something we really struggled with on PlayStation 4, getting like actual PS4 quality games in VR. And, like learning about eye tracking and how it can use foveated rendering. This was all stuff that we were learning together leading up to the launch and saying, oh, when they utilize this, it's going to make things great. And I feel like we're only really now seeing the results of that. We talked about Madison today, and we're like, wow, this really was like a console quality game in VR, like practically photorealistic. We use the term soft launch for the better part of the first year. Like, I think 2024 is, I mean, it sounds fucking stupid to say, but I think we're really going to shine this year. I think it's got a lot of potential left.
Even with just the third party stuff that we know about, and we talked about this earlier, like we pretty much are going to have a banger per month for most of the rest of the year. So that's just what we know of, right? It's just what we know is coming.
Exactly. So anybody out there losing faith, do not lose faith. Go play Madison, have a blast, shit your pants, and we'll see you next week.